Good afternoon, Bangkok. How are you doing today? Well, I hope you've been enjoying the city, this high-energy city. The traffic gives you, you draw energy from the traffic, right? How many of you have been riding on motorbikes? Yeah. What about you, Ed? Have you ridden a motorbike? No, not yet. What about the food of Thailand? Are you loving it? And everything else Thailand, right? So friends, thank you so much for taking out the time and being with us today. I know you have lots of options, but you've taken out the time to be with us. So thank you very much. So welcome to the Rollup Day, brought to you by Zeeve and APAC DAO. We ran our first edition of the Rollup Day in Singapore about 2 months back on the sidelines of Token 2049, and it was a resounding success. We had Stephen Goldfeder, who was the CEO, co-founder of Offchain Labs, as our keynote speaker. And we had, and given the success, we said we should replicate this and run the second edition here on the sidelines of DEF CON and Eth Bangkok. So here we are today. And, like always, it's going to be an exciting day. We have a fabulous lineup of speakers, some panels where you're going to have, debates, some fireside chats across a range of topics. Of course, roll-ups are right up there, but there are going to be, some other topics as well that we will cover during the course of the day. And so just as an introduction, my name is Thomas Abraham. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Zeeve. And I have with me today Nicole. Please give a big round of applause to Nicole. Nicole is the co-founder of APAC DAO, and we are co-hosting this particular event. So Nicole, what really excites you about today?
So again, thank you so much for coming today. I think you might be wondering why we have the Rollup Day times Eth Bangkok. So we are bringing these two brands together for the very first time in Bangkok. And as Thomas has mentioned, so Rollup Day is definitely about bringing you some of the most trending innovations in the space around rollup scalability solutions. And what Eth Bangkok stands for is about bridging with the ecosystem in Southeast Asia. So Eth Bangkok, we've been around for over 3 years, the same time with APAC DAO. So we've been actively building the ecosystem for Web3 builders in Southeast Asia for the past 3 years. We have over 3,000 members now, and Eth Bangkok has been doing conferences and events in the past 3 years, and this is the first time that we are doing this physically in Bangkok. With today we got over maybe 1,500 people registering for the event, and we have a stellar lineup of people talking about not only just technical topics, but also about how to help your products to penetrate and connect with the ecosystem in Southeast Asia. So I think that's definitely what I'm most interested in about this event. And today you will be able to listen to a lot of the talks from our friends from all over the world, as well as our local key community leaders and local experts as well. So feel free to mingle with them and discuss about what's going to happen after this Eth Bangkok Rollup Day, what's going to happen after DEF CON, because I think that's the discussion that's going to matter.
Yeah, so Nicole, is there something else you would like to talk about APAC DAO?
So again, we've been around for 3 years, also a builder ourselves, building the community in Southeast Asia. So we are actually very tech agnostic and ecosystem agnostic. We work with different chains like Ripple, Story Protocol, WorldCoin, as well as even the Road to DEF CON initiative by Ethereum Foundation. So our mission is to foster and support the builders in Southeast Asia. And moving forward after this from next year, we would be also announcing a lineup of different partners as well. So anything in Southeast Asia with building the community and connecting with builders, please remember us. Please think about APAC DAO. And I will be here as well to support you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Yeah, a round of applause to Nicole. I'd like to now invite Ravi, Dr. Ravi, who's the CEO and co-founder of Zeeve, for a quick chat.
Hey, hi, Thomas.
Yeah, so Ravi, we had our first edition in Singapore a couple of months back. So what's your expectation from today?
No, I think we are very excited. This time, in fact, we surpassed the expectations in terms of registrations, in terms of lineup. We are seeing a lot of our existing customers, a lot of prospects. a lot of people who want to learn what rollups are and how Ethereum scalability, interoperability is happening. So it's a time to learn, get insights, share insights, and we are very excited as a team here.
Yeah, and I think everyone would be quite keen to know, what does Zeeve do for rollups?
Yeah, so Zeeve has been into managed blockchain infrastructure for the last 4 years. We started our journey with helping enterprises deploy their permission private protocols, and then we got into Appchains, helping people set up their L1s or side chains using Cosmos SDK, Polkadot parachains, or Avalanche L1s. And then, last year, as the rollup started picking up as a narrative to scale Ethereum ecosystem, we started supporting rollups. We partnered with the various rollup stacks as official implementation partner. And what we do is, today, if you want to launch your own app chain, an application-specific chain in the form of a rollup as a service provider makes it super, super easy. Because otherwise, you need to navigate on the tech side, you need to bring in different integration partners, creating a DevOps team in-house to manage the infrastructure, ensuring scalability, ensuring performance. Everything becomes very, very difficult when you are actually focusing on your use case, building community, bringing users, transactions. That is where Rollup as a service comes in, making it super, super easy. It's like, AWS for your Web2 application.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ravi. Yeah, we'll catch up with you later today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
So friends, today we're going to have a blend of sessions which are focused on some level of technology. There's been lots of sessions on technology right through DevCon and a whole lot of other conferences. But what we hear most is that projects want to know, what is it in us for, what does it do for us? What's the benefit of being a rollup or an app chain, right? So we're going to have a lot of focus on the business side, as well as on use cases and how is it relevant for a particular industry. So friends, let's get the show on the road now. And 2 months ago at Singapore, we asked the question, are we in the midst of a roll-up boom? And the answer was a resounding yes, right? I think everybody's excited. And today the question we're going to ask is, what does it take for the mass adoption of rollups? I was having a brief chat with Ed Felten, who's coming up shortly as our keynote speaker to address this particular topic. And I asked Ed, how many rollups do you think we will have in 2025? And he said a few hundreds. Well, it could be 200, it could be 999. Well, let's hope it's 999 plus. So let's welcome Ed Felten. Ed is the chief scientist and co-founder at Offchain Labs, who are building Arbitrum. So Ed has been with the company since its inception from September 2018. And he's been the chief architect focusing on the scalability of Arbitrum. So Ed, the stage is all yours. Take it away.
Can you hear me now? Great. Okay. All right. I want to talk about the future of L2. In particular, I want to talk about the mission that so many of us share, which is the mission of onboarding the next billion users. Now, that is easy to say, but it's not so easy to do. And I want to talk in particular about how we get there. I'm going to talk generally about what attitude we need to have as a community, and also about some of the particular moves we should make. So the first thing is, in terms of attitude, there's a lot of talk about alignment, and what does alignment mean, and how we need to be aligned. For me, what matters is user alignment. We need to align with our users, and we need to make technologies that are compelling to them. And if we all align with our users, then we will be aligned with each other, and aligned in the right direction. Now, I want to talk about 6 big moves that we, as a broad community, I think can and should be making. Some of them are already underway. Some of them will happen going forward. And I'll talk specifically about things that Arbitrum and the Arbitrum community are doing to help our users get there. The first big move is to build in layers. Now, why layers? Well, layering is one of the great tricks of the internet, which is the most successful protocol ever developed by humanity. And so we can learn a lot, actually, from the development of the internet. Layering has a bunch of advantages. Each layer in the technology can focus on doing one thing and doing it well. And then the layers above can rely on that already being taken care of. The other nice thing about layers, as you can see over here on the left, is the layers of the internet as they stack up. It's not just a stack, it's a kind of branching tree. The layers allow you to have diversity. For example, with rollups, not every rollup has to be the same. Different rollups can be aimed at different business purposes, different technical configurations. And that diversity that you can have in solutions and approaches is really a valuable outcome of layering. So building our technology in layers is really important, and that's why we started out long ago with the idea of layer 2, which of course has expanded beyond that. Now Vitalik has early on recognized the value of layering, and in 2020 he published this now famous post about the rollup-centric roadmap, saying that Ethereum was going to bet on a layered approach. And how's it going? Well, the rollup world is very robust. If you look at the capacity and traffic of rollups today on the Ethereum stack compared to the throughput of Ethereum, we see that that rollups have about, or layer 2 and 3 have about 30 times the transactions per second that Ethereum can handle, about 80 times the gas, about 40 times the amount of input call data, and there's order of 100 L2 and L3 chains already launched in the Ethereum stack. So this has expanded the scope of what the Ethereum stack can do to a really remarkable extent. Just to illustrate this, let me show you this graph that shows how much gas, how much activity there is in different layers of the Ethereum stack. L1, this is to scale. L1 is about 1.5%, and L2 and L3 split the rest of it. So before layer 2 and layer 3, Ethereum was limited to what on this graph is just that small yellow bar on the bottom. And what you can see is that if we're going to get to the scale we need to grow these L2 and L3 bars even larger. Okay. Now, there's a lot of advantages to, that you get from being at layer 2, from being at layer 3. Essentially, you get more technical flexibility, you get lower cost. But I want to move on and talk about the second big move, and that is to connect everything. If you're building in layers, and if there are many hundreds or thousands of rollups, if there are many hundreds of large ones or many thousands of medium-sized ones, you need to connect them together so that you can provide a really great user experience, even as users are using multiple chains at the same time. So that means that brings us to this topic sometimes called L2 interop, or really L2 or L3 interop. How can we give users a nice experience even as they do things that span across a range of chains? Now, we want to connect everything, but one of the lessons we've learned already is it matters a lot how you connect. Connecting in the right way is key to having a system that's robust and serves the needs of users. So, and again, I think we can learn a lot from how the internet does this. The internet has developed its own way of allowing users to operate across a range of different machines and systems. We do this every day. Everything we do online pretty much relies on internet interop. And it works really nicely. So there are a bunch of focuses that internet interop had that allowed that to happen. There's a focus on speed. There was a focus on it being standards-based so that everything could talk to everything. But then there are particular technical moves that the internet has made. First, that interop is asynchronous, meaning that the parts don't stop and wait for each other. That's really important because stop and wait is a solution to making things slow. Stop and wait is, if you've experienced Bangkok traffic, you understand why stop and wait. It might not be the best approach to getting to your destination quickly. Fault tolerant. So asynchronous means you don't stop and wait for the other component. Fault tolerant means that you have to be prepared for the other component you're interoperating with to not be available, to not be working correctly, and you need to smoothly deal with that. And security conscious simply means that you don't just assume that the other component will be secure. You need to be robust even if the other component's not secure. These moves have allowed the internet to connect things together in a really smooth way. And to give you just an idea of how pervasive these moves are, even in the same data center, if you have two servers in the same data center, 2 centimeters apart, managed by the same people, running the same software, they still operate this way. They don't stop and wait for each other, they don't assume the other will be available, and they don't necessarily assume the other will be secure. That's the attitude we need to take. And I think we can build internet-style interop and provide an internet-style experience for users, even across blockchains, across L2 and L3, and across different blockchain technology stacks. Now, there's basically 2 sort of styles of thinking about how to connect these machines. There's the chain cluster view, where the machines are sort of tightly coupled, and where you force a kind of uniformity onto all of the systems that are being connected. But I think it's much more useful to follow the internet approach and have things be sort of loosely coupled, where everyone gets to use their own approach, their own configuration, everyone gets to manage their own system however it is that they like. And we still get them to work together and make a smooth experience. This, I think, is the key. Uniformity, a type of interoperation that relies on everyone being the same, everyone marching in lockstep, I think is not the right approach. We give up the value of diversity and choice that the current L2, L3 ecosystem provides so well. Big move number 3 is to focus on making sure that we serve developers. This is the mandatory Steve Ballmer image here. What developers really want from the technologies is they want to be able to use familiar and battle-tested programming languages and tools, all of the things that they've come to know and love, and that have matured through so much use in Web 2. Second, they want fast execution. They want the chains to actually run as fast as possible, and they want things to be fully composable, meaning that you don't give up the really nice ability to build transactions that do multiple things, the sort of financial or technical Lego approach that you get with blockchain programming. You don't want to give that up. So the approach we've taken with Arbitrum is something called Stylus. And Stylus takes the attitude that different programmers want to program in different ways. Some programmers want to use Solidity and run programs in the EVM, which is the Ethereum style. Some programmers want to program in other programming languages, Rust or C++ or other programming tools. And why not just do both, right? There are even events here in Bangkok about alt VMs. Should we use EVM or should we use Rust? Well, what our approach is, why not support both? Support both on the same chains, make everything work with everything, fully composable, and so on. This shipped on Arbitrum a couple months ago. So this is not just a vision, this is actually live. And there's a lot of excitement around it because it opens up a lot of new performance and it allows many more programmers on board. As my colleague Stephen Goldfeder likes to say, if you want to bring the next billion users on board, you first need to bring the next million developers. And this is, I think, is a big step toward that goal. Okay, big move number 4 is to make it fast, obviously, but to make it fast for real. You see a lot of claims published in this space, so we can do 1 billion TPS or a billion gas per second or whatever it is. And it's easy to make up an artificial measurement and make your number really big when you're talking about performance. But what really matters, of course, to users is what do you get in real use? What do you get on a chain that has some history, that has a lot of usage, that has a big state, and that is running the things that users actually want to do, and not just some program that you picked because it would make a big number. And so that focus, really relentlessly focusing on practical performance, measured performance, is really key. And there's a bunch of things we can do to get to that point. I'm not going to go through all of these in the interest of time. But basically, it amounts to several things. First of all, having realism about how we measure and how we talk about performance, and having standards for how we measure it. And then just working relentlessly to improve the technology, to make things go faster without changing, without burdening users or without burdening developers with extra work. That should be the job of the system designers to make this system just faster without inconveniencing anyone else. Big move number 5 is technical decentralization. Now, when we started out with Arbitrum back in the mainnet launch in 2021, the system had, I thought, a decent degree of decentralization, and we had a decentralization roadmap. Here's how we're going to get from where we are to a system that's really fully decentralized. We're now getting pretty close in Arbitrum to the end of that roadmap and to being able to say everything is decentralized. And I think Arbitrum has been a leader in that space. But let me talk about what that means. And whoa, we have a formatting problem. Okay, so one of the big changes, which is an upgrade coming soon to Arbitrum, assuming that the DAO votes to adopt it, is called Bold. And although you can't read it, the big move with Bold here is that it makes the step of validating the Arbitrum chain open to everyone. It makes it safe to open that up to everyone. And what that does is it creates this incredible guarantee that any one user with a laptop sitting anywhere in the world can force the chain to execute correctly. Even if everyone else is against you, if you are one person with the truth on your side, it's like in the movies, right? One person with the truth on their side can actually win out. And that's an incredible security property which will be available when Bold is deployed. And so that decentralizes the role of validating the chain. Anyone can do it, and anyone has just as much power as the big players in the protocol. The next big upgrade that's coming is Time Boost, which is about allowing chains to capture some of the MEV revenue. That is some of the revenue that's being extracted by high-frequency traders on their chain. This is a way to return some of that value to chain governance. If it's an app chain, if it's your app chain, that's revenue that you could be collecting and using for the good of your business or the good of your protocol. Now, I'm not going to go into exactly how that works, but the keys about it are that it captures MEV revenue, and that there's a decentralized version of the Arbitrum sequencer that we Offchain Labs are developing jointly with Espresso Systems in the pipeline. We're really excited about that because that will be the last step of the technical decentralization roadmap for Arbitrum. So once that's delivered, we'll be there at that destination that we set for ourselves for technical decentralization about 3 years ago. Big move number 6, the last one, is to decentralize control. And this is really important, the question of who's actually in control of these chains. Now, in an app chain, if it's your chain, you get to decide what is happening. But on the big Arbitrum chains, Arbitrum 1 and Arbitrum Nova, it's the Arbitrum DAO that governs. Or if you have an app chain, perhaps you have a DAO and you want your DAO to govern. And we've worked really hard to build support for that. So what does decentralizing control mean? What it really means is that it is the users who are really in control. If you give users control, they have control. There's not some backdoor. When the users vote to do something, that thing will happen directly on chain. And users have practical control. There's not a group of insiders who actually make the decisions after pretending to listen to the users. So with these 6 big moves, which are well underway in the Arbitrum ecosystem and a bunch of others, we can establish the conditions to get to that mass adoption, to that next billion users. The future of L2, I think, is the future of Ethereum and vice versa. I believe really strongly that we are in this together and that one layer succeeds when the other layers succeed. That's like the internet, and it's the way that layered systems have always worked. And then finally, the principle that underlies so much of this, and especially the app chain idea, is this: your chain, your rules. That is, you have the ability to launch a chain. It can be your chain. It will work the way you want it to work. You have the power to customize it and control it. And that's the goal that we've been aiming at. That's the goal that Orbit and the sorts of services that our friends at Zeeve provide can make available to you. So with that, I'll thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you so much, Ed. So we're going to have a quiz. What are the 6 big moves that Ed just mentioned? Yep. Oh, fantastic. Round of applause. Yeah, and what I liked the most was, if you want 1 billion users, you need 1 million developers. You know, that's something which will stay in my head for sure. So thank you so much, Ed, for those nuggets of wisdom. We really appreciate it, and for having taken the time to be with us. Well, you know, every project that we speak to always ask, what does it mean for my business? Okay, when we say, hey, are you looking at a roll-up? They say, well, can you tell us about roll-ups in our industry? Right? So everybody is looking for use cases, and they want to understand how will it benefit them specifically. So we put together a stellar panel right now of projects who are building, who have set up roll-ups, who are in the process of moving to mainnet. Some of them have moved to mainnet. And so it's going to be all about customer use cases, driving innovation. And I'd like to invite the various panelists on board. Manit Gogar, yeah? Manit Gogar is, he's a CMO at the Binary Holdings. They have, last I was told, they have 40 million users on chain from various telcos. So that's an amazing consumer base that they have, which can be leveraged in a very significant way. I'd also like to invite Aidon Liu. Aidon. Oh yeah, Aidon is a rock star, you know. I mean, he's a movie star. So often you find the TV crew following him. So if you want to star in any TV serial, please hang around with Aidon. Yeah, please come up on stage. Yeah, Manit, Aidon, yeah. I'd also like to invite Robin Babu. Yeah, Robin is a dear friend, co-founder and CEO at Tavera Labs. They're building something amazing on the gaming front, on the ZK stack. Aidon is the co-founder of Pentagon Games, who are building an amazing gaming chain on Polygon CDK. And Manit Gogar is part of Binary, which is building on OP Stack. We roll up on OP Stack. And Ramani. Yeah, there you are. Yeah, we missed Ramani at Singapore. Yeah, he got stuck in the traffic, but we were fortunate to have him with us. And is Georgie here? Hey, Georgie, come up. Yeah, Georgie is Wirex Pay. They're building on Polygon CDK. And we'll need an additional chair for our moderator for today, Ghan Vashisht, who's the co-founder and CTO at Zeeve. So, friends, the floor is yours.
I think I'll have the special chair. I think not as here. I think you already know of all of them, but I think I'll be pointing straight questions at them about use cases, because these are some of the panelists who have done it already. Some are already in the process. So you would get to hear the most important aspects of why do you build on a roll-up, and if you build on a roll-up, what do you consider? And what kind of use cases you can actually realize, which makes an impact when you build them on a rollup. And of course, across stacks, like Thomas already mentioned, the use cases are built on different stacks, not just one stack. So I'll start with Georgie, you, because you're building a payment use case. So I think, what is that payment use case you're building at Wirex, and you can talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Thanks for having me here, guys. It's a bit of a surprise to be on stage. So Wirex has been around for quite a while. For those who haven't come across, we're most known for the crypto debit card. We were the first company in the market to issue one at scale as early as 2015. It wasn't even a crypto debit card, it was a Bitcoin debit card at the time, because Ethereum didn't yet exist, not to mention all the L2s, L3s, etc. And it's working perfect. So we wanted to make crypto spendable in real life, because if it's money is a means of exchange. It's one of the fundamental features of money. And it's been running successfully. We've got 6 million registered users. We've issued well over 1.5 million cards, something like that. So people have been paying with crypto, not only crypto, fiat as well, but crypto was the main differentiator since 2015. But it has always been custodial for technical architectural reasons. As much as we would like people to be able to spend Bitcoin or stablecoin directly from their on-chain wallets, it's just not possible from speed of transaction perspective, because on Visa and MasterCard networks, we're talking like 40, 50 milliseconds. On Bitcoin network, we're talking minutes. In times of congestions, potentially hours. So only thanks to rollups coming up, it's now finally possible to make that old dream we had nearly 10 years ago now come true. So when users bridge their assets to a rollup, ours is built on Polygon ZK stack, but like nothing limits us from expanding it to other chains as well, because the complex part is this fiat regulatory card infrastructure, all the banking relationships, Visa, MasterCards, all that takes years to build. But now it's finally possible to spend your on-chain funds directly from your wallet without ever giving out custody of your funds to Wirex, to anyone. Something happens to Wirex, although thankfully we've been around for 3 bear markets already, you still get access to your funds because you hold your keys. Or something happens to you as a user, like you were using your card to buy weapons and we have to block your account. We can block the account, but we can't touch the funds because the user still controls the keys. So that's kind of the dream coming true. It's still fairly not the ideal UI UX compared to the more traditional fintechs or the one that we have in Wirex app, which is like a neobanking type of experience. It's still, you have to know how to use an on-chain wallet, you have to know how to bridge your assets. There's still some friction points here and there, but fundamentally it's finally possible to actually be your own bank without losing, without missing out on access to real-world payment instruments. And now it's the card. Going forward, we'll add IBANs and various other regional payment rails. So this kind of Web3 banking is finally becoming possible, and thanks to rollups.
Right. Thank you, Georgie, for making payments possible this way on Web3. I'm sure none of us is going to buy weapons. But yeah, games for sure. But before we move on to the games, Manit, we are sitting in the right order, I guess, payments and then banking and telecom. So what are you building when it comes to banking and telecom?
Yeah, sure. Again, thank you for having me here today. I guess for everyone's benefit, the Binary Holdings effectively is a Web3 infrastructure builder for telecom, primarily telecom companies, but with a wider focus on enterprise as a whole, so banks, fintechs, e-com, game publishers even. Any enterprise that has a large retail captive base and wants to look to better engagement, retention, activation, and improve revenue incrementally per user, we can work with them. Our products are synergistic. Telecom banking are very businesses. And so a lot of the kind of tools and products that they've used to kind of address these challenges, right, engagement, activation, have started to play, or at least almost every other player in the industry is using the same tools, right? And so what we do for enterprise or telco primarily is we build tokenized, 2 things primarily. A, it's a tokenized cashback program that we embed within their entire ecosystem, which runs in parallel to their loyalty programs, right? And as most you know, loyalty programs are extremely massive cost centers for these large enterprises. And so running these tokenized cashback programs in parallel allows them to kind of eventually transition and to offload this large cost component off their balance sheet. So that's number one. Where we've transitioned today is we've embedded natively within their mobile apps a Web3 dApps, right? And the reason for that is it's a very natural kind of evolution from where we started with the tokenized cashback program, because now we need to give avenues to these users to spend these things, right? And that's a crucial next step to then unlock what I call phase 3, which is utility-driven demand. Because only once they have enough free tokens to test out different dApps will they know which dApps they want to continue engaging. And that's when we will then provide an on-ramp solution that will buy more. And that's a kind of high-level overview we do on the enterprise side. But what that allows us to do on the Web3 side is provide our network as a distribution layer for other blockchains, right? Layer 1s and layer 2. So we're built on OP. We're part of the OP superchain ecosystem. And the idea or the entire kind of ethos of the OP ecosystem is not to have each chain, there are 40 of them, cannibalize business from one another, right? It's all about kind of creating a more synergistic and symbiotic ecosystem. And so we provide kind of this distribution component to all the chains in the ecosystem today. Yeah.
Fantastic. How many of you are playing games nowadays on Web3? Any hands? No hands. Sorry, you have no gaming users here. But anyways, you can talk about what Pentagon Games is all about.
Yeah, great. Hello, guys. Hello.
That's a mic game.
Hello. Can I go? Hey, guys. So this is Aiden from Pentagon Games. So high level, we are a content discovery platform using, I would say, next generation 3D interactive browsers. So which means everything like this, your storefront, this entire experience, video games can come into a single universe. So you can almost say it's sort of like metaverse, but we're kind of tackling the problem of being able to resolve what didn't work on the last cycle, which was a big part of it, interoperability. Another part was accessible by any device. And another one was ability to really see things in VR. Our view is metaverse will come back because otherwise Apple probably wouldn't be building Apple Vision Pro. So we have a very edge technology. You can check it out. Everything information is already on pentagon.games, which is our website. And when you do a visit, you will see there's a lot of wealth of information on how we can turn everything into 3D. So we believe the future of websites will be fully in 3D. So why would you have a website of this hotel showing a 2D video or pictures when you can just look at it fully interactive? No application download, and all of that is coming around end of the year when we fully launch. We're part of the TV show. Some of you guys know Crypto Nights, CryptoNights.tv. So we featured there. We actually been postponing our delay a little bit on pushing that content. One of the main differentiator, I think, for us is from a traditional arm, we have a team of actually close to around 1,200 people that does 3D interactive trailers for all of the AAA games. So one of the big things, I would say the gap between Web 2 and Web 3 is, we kind of have the unfair advantage of able to onboard some of these AAA IPs by telling them to say, hey, I'm already making you a 3D video trailer. Now I'm actually going to give you a new product, which is a discovery with these NFT collectibles. So essentially what we're trying to convert is traditional IP, give them a new way to discover these IP in this 3D interactive web experience. Now everything you can collect digital collectibles, which are essentially NFT. Now, underlying all of these digital collectibles essentially is NFTs, as I mentioned. Now, of course, we have a rollup chain, which is a Pentagon chain. It's a CDK. Why we chose CDK was because, well, first of all, we run 2 of the 105 Polygon validator, so there's a natural inclination to go the Polygon side. But we were also looking at who were the gaming chains, because one of the key things we want to be interoperable cross-chain is to bring all these major gaming chains together. We are also validated for a large gaming chain called Oasis Games. We recently was announced that we're one of I would say the second Web3 company that got invited to join their validator network. Like the other part of their validator network was Sega, Bandai Namco, Netmarble, so really big brands. So like we're really seeing that we start being recognized in the Web 2 space as well. So now again, so we believe the future is interoperable. So although we have a rollup chain, the reason why we have our chain, I think earlier with the Appchains presentation, we were talking about your chain, your rules. So our rules is we are a permission chain. So all of the ecosystem, it's a regulated control environment so that we can control age and region content. So what happened is all the NFT essentially need to be approved to come into our chain. So what we can allow is miners to be able to access our chain safely because all the content are approved. Now we're keeping the decentralized ethos, which means if any of the content go non-safe for work, we bump them back to wherever they come from without destroying their assets. So I think it's a really interesting ecosystem we're putting together. Otherwise, follow our social, Pentagon Games XP. We're doing like airdrops, and we are launching end of year TGE with our gas token, which is the PEN token. Yeah.
Thank you. I have more questions for you, sure, but let's not end the gaming discussion yet because we have Robin here. So Robin, what are you building at Teva Era?
Let's start with changing basically hands going up about making Web3 gaming fun again. So Tavera is focused on bringing the fun back to Web3 gaming. We are focused on being that one-stop shop for game developers and gamers to bring the passion of gaming back to life, right? We have been focused on a lot of little details about user experience, like all the things that we've been talking about, covering over here, the decentralized ethos, interop, right? All of those things are important, fast and whatnot, right? So those are all, I think we are all doing the same thing, slightly differently, but ultimately our end goal is just bring mass adoption for Web3 to our users. So we are super excited about some of the things we have done. We launched a multiplayer racing game back in 2023 with over 10 million multiplayer matches. And what that allows is users to, from different regions and different communities to come together. And when the crypto hustle is taking a toll, spend some time playing games and unwind, right? That's kind of our motto, right? When it comes to just gaming, making gaming fun again, and that, making the experience seamless. We chose ZK Sync and ZK Stack as our rollup for a few different reasons. Number one is native account abstraction, of course, decentralized, of course, fast and cheap, all of those fun things. But we believe that ZK proof and ZK is the end game, and just kind of looking at the future of where we are headed. We're happy to collaborate and would love to see, Polygon CDK and Arbitrum and OP Stack all kind of coming together and creating a huge network effect. But I think we'd love to see that happening. Somebody working on that. But for the time being, within the ZK Sync ecosystem, all the chains are connected together. So we share the liquidity of the players as well as the user, the financials. So again, making games fun again, and seeing a lot more hands going up. Making games safe as well, right, for minors, and those are all great things that we are doing in the gaming world.
Thank you, Robin. And I think we already see the collaboration. You see Robin from Tavera wearing the Pentagon Games cap. And I think we want an ecosystem where we see gamers playing games and experience from Tavera and Pentagon, and then using payment systems like WireX, and also participating closely with the binary holding kind of solutions. I'm really sorry. But then how it will all happen? Where is the interop? We talked about interop. We have the interop expert sitting right next to me.
And by the way, we're already on testnet using router protocol, so.
Yes. So interop is here. So Ram.
Thank you guys. So I think exciting panel, a lot of cool stuff being built out, right? And I guess the use cases are plain and obvious. There's a lot of use cases spanning gaming, payments, and it's all of a piece with what we keep evangelizing with router, which is around chain abstraction is about pushing complexity under the hood. So when people ask me what we do, we're the middle that you don't need to care about it. We just cover a lot of things that we're the plumbing and wiring statesmen. Going back to the early 2000s, how the company was the possibilities, right? Laid the foundation for the current Web2 space as well, and then Web3. So we just the plumbing and the wiring for the problem. One thing that I've seen with a lot of these dApps coming out and building the chains is the whole value capture argument, right? Initially, Ethereum had all the fees, and then the L2 said, listen, we're going to put an R sequencer and take all our fees. And then I'm sort of intrigued, and I'd love to hear, I've been having chats with this as well, but how does the fee, the value capture, debate, argument, negotiation happen in a world where every chain is a pretty powerful roll-up and brings in a ton of transactions, right? I think that is going to be an interesting question going forward. And then that is, like for instance, Uniswap decided to go its own chain. So at this point, do you want to launch an L2 or you want to launch a killer DApp and then have the distribution and then launch a chain, right? So again, people like Zeeve, folks like Zeeve are going to make that happen. Folks like Router are going to be there connecting all these beautiful chains. So those are some of the thoughts coming into DevCon, playing around in my mind. But yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So it's great to hear the kind of use cases happening, and then the interop angle which we would need. But then I'll go back and dive a little into the tech, and I'll start with you, Georgie, again. I mean, you're looking like you're in the corner, but we'll not leave you there. So you're building on Polygon CDK. So it's a ZK rollup stack. We all know that. So why do you think ZK is a fitting choice? Of course, I'll take that question to Idon and Robin, because all of you are building ZK. So why ZK?
I'll just apologize in advance if I have something silly, because I'm a co-founder of the project, but not a technical co-founder. I think for now, for us, it was more about speed, guestless transactions, because if a user, on top of whatever fees we have to pay and cover for users for using the Visa, MasterCard, bank networks, all that, if they also had to pay gas, that would make it a less appealing thing. But going forward, I think ZK, it's not playing a part, at least in my view, yet. But going forward, although no one can identify those transactions are your transactions, because, of course, the card data is private, but the actual on-chain transactions are on-chain. And hopefully one day there will be more solutions that will allow for that information not to be entirely on-chain, because last thing we want is for someone to see like how many burgers we bought at McDonald's and that kind of thing, right? To associate this on-chain data with the off-chain. So this kind of limited information on-chain, what's public, what's not public. I think ZK could play a role going forward. But for now, again, it's mostly about speed and cost of transaction for us. And also finality, because if a person already made a purchase, but then the blockchain transaction is reverted, as it is in case of some rollups, that's not really a viable case for us in payments.
Thank you. So it's speed and finality for WireX. Idon, what is it for you in ZK?
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to a little bit, but I want to go back a little bit, Pentagon Games. We actually have two main IP, and this kind of, there's a part of the reason why I'm getting to it. First of all, we have an IP called Penta Pets, which used to drive from an old IP called Ethermon. It's the first fully on-chain game on Ethereum that was built in 2018. And then we also have another IP called Blockchain Superhero. It's a USPTO trademark. Blockchain Superheroes belong to us. And this IP, we actually deploy Superhero PFP on every single blockchain. We work with 13 different blockchains, and now we'll be deploying PFP collection on every single major blockchain, including TON, including Tron, including pretty much every single ecosystem. So the idea there was always, how do I get interoperability and onboard Web3 users? So by doing that, obviously we're selling some of these superheroes to raise funds. Then we stake them, either validator or staking. Then share the gas reward to all the new users coming in. So brand new users coming in, they're totally non-Web2, but I can start sharing gas token from different chains to them. So all of a sudden, a Web2 user got all this gas token. So now, I think one of the key things, why, to go back to the question of why Polygon CDK, we also run the L2 for Oasis games, is we're trying to also capture the value of a cross-chain. So which means that, with Aggregator, with Polygon, they're pushing a new Aggregator that allows you to capture some of the value from going between interchain. So from sharing rewards from different blockchain through validation, to sharing rewards of the routing protocol. So hopefully, I can strike some kind of deal here so that we can share more of this to onboard rest of the Web2 audience all into Web3. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, Robin, you are building right now. You will probably come out next year, sometime in January. So, what is your, inspiration about using ZK as a, core rollup ecosystem for your solution?
So ZK Stack from ZK Sync has been, I think, one of the first teams to get ZK into mainnet with, I would say, battle tested, getting to a point where it's now being decentralized. So those were all important aspects for why we selected ZK Sync as our chain, just the innovation and the team behind it. But why ZK? Of course, I think its finality is fast. Then some of the other little details is native account abstraction, whether it be using paymasters or gasless transactions, but then also the hyperchain aspect of it, where you are sharing the liquidity. So we have protocols like Lens Protocol and Treasure DAO and ZK Candy and some of the other gaming chains all being built on ZK. And we are excited about them being part of the ecosystem because that brings in the liquidity of players and innovation and games that we all love to do. So I think those were some of our reasons why we picked ZK. Of course, the composability aspect of it, the flexibility of picking which configuration we wanted to go with, which is kind of default from Rollup, and the countless amount of time that you guys have spent with us in really identifying the best case scenario for us. Super thankful about the time that you spent with us as well.
No, I think thank you. But it's not all about ZK in the end. We have all sort of, rollups, be it optimistic or ZK out there. So I'll go back to Manit and I'll ask Manit, you have a OP rollup running already. It is live. And I think you might want to surprise everybody here by telling the numbers, in terms of traction you have gotten so far on your OP rollup.
Yeah, sure. So as of today, we're about 43 million wallets on chain. And that's only going to increase as we, start to onboard more enterprise customers. But OP for us was I think an obvious choice, not just from a cost and a speed standpoint, but I think the ecosystem characteristics of the super chain that OP was building and kind of their ethos was a big driver for us to kind of pick them. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great experience so far. I think working with you and OP together has been over that last, I think, 7 months. It's been fantastic.
Right. No, I think it's just good to hear that all the roll-up stacks are, becoming, one or the other choice for every new project coming out there. And, we at Zeeve, we've been helping all the projects and use cases of ours about, how do you get to that point where, this roll-up starts making sense for you and you get going and then you reach a testnet and then a mainnet and then, get traction. But Ramni, I have a question saved for you for the very end. What interoperability would look like in 2025? What are you building? What is that primary area of innovation which you're focusing right now, which is going to help everybody, all the use cases, be it OP, ZK, and everything?
Well, I mean, I could spend a couple of hours on that, but I'll try and do justice in the 0 seconds we have. But I mean, one thing I want to add to the last thread we were on was that it's fascinating. So the Nitro bridge that we have an Explorer. And if you look at the top 5, top 10 routes, you have Scroll, you have ZK Sync, and you have OP, and so hello, yeah. So at this point, it's not quite evident that this one is winning over the other, and we haven't even started with the whole AVS stack, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's all a way of securing consensus. So in the long run, obviously, that those trade-offs are still being played out. From a router perspective, I think I like this analogy, right? Again, interoperability is like the airline industry, right? I mean, from 1905 to 1937, you had the Wright brothers and those cycles with flaps or wings or whatever you want to call them, and 3 out of 10 sort of crashed. So that was the first wave between, I would say, 2018 to 22 or 21. A lot of bridges. Torchain was the only one that survived. A lot of them crashed and burnt. I mean, even the big ones, right? I mean, you could look at, obviously I don't want to name any because there might be somebody in the panel and probably get into heat later. But a lot of them got hacked. And then from 1937, the whole there's this Zeppelin called Hindenburg, right? Somebody had this bright idea, fill up a balloon with helium, and it can take a lot of people. It works spectacularly till it did not, right? That's a whole TVL-driven model where you sort of aggregate liquidity. And I think the true era of aviation started after the 1937 Hindenburg crash, and that's what we're seeing in Interop. We see a lot of different approaches. You see router, layer zero, XLR, polymer, hyperlane. I mean, it's amazing. It's a bit like how the financial industry has evolved and the... Yeah, it's on sleep. I don't know why it's ringing, but anyway. It's fascinating. I think what we have is a few different approaches. Our approach is, we have solvers, we have very asset-light model where the Nitro bridge, for instance, is super fast, super cheap. It has solvers, it's secured by the Cosmos chain. There's a few others who have this approach. But again, there's flexibility in terms of what secures the underlying chain. We have an additional ZK option. We are working with the likes of Eigenlayer and Symbiotic to sort of extend Ethereum security to Cosmos. And I think what will be interesting is, even with Interop, people are going to see it's not going to be a cost thing. I mean, I'm not going to go to an app and say, listen, you guys need Interop, give us so much fees. Like even 12 months ago, it was, how much can you give us in grants? We'll give you 200K, 150K. I think it's going to be a far more engaging conversation. Listen, let's not make it a pain point. Let's make it a thing of joy. We're going to together work and put together a plugin or a service, and then we have these things called adapters. A router has adapters. Some people call them zaps. One click, you can go into 10 different chains, do 15 different actions instead of changing your wallet, changing chains, like just depositing your, getting your ETH into the whole Eigenlayer thing to farm 6 months ago was a huge problem. And so one of our engineers came up with a thing called Stakeys, right, where you could, in one click, take your Ethereum or USDC, go to Lido or Stader or whatever, roll your LRT, and then allocate it to Eigenlayer or whatever, right? So you'll have a lot of bundling and cross-chain atomicity in a way, and you'll have conversations with these apps where they tell you, listen, I'm going to give you so much throughput and transactions and volume. How can we sort of jointly share the value there? For technology perspective, again, the solver model is super interesting. Solvers are going to underpin a lot of the transactions, the liquidity, etc. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I can go on and on, but let me sort of take a break then and give the mic.
Right. No, I think, thank you, everyone. 3 cell phones on stage file today. They are all in shock. One went to sleep a while ago. But I'm sure you guys are not in shock hearing, these magnificent and tremendous use cases coming to real life. And I believe, if you want to build your next use case, and if you want to, worry about how it is to be built, just talk to us. Zeeve and Router are there to, help with your infrastructure and, these phenomenal use cases to guide you with the experiences, we can share with you in the infrastructure lines. So yeah, thank you very much for being here and giving the insights on different use cases and different industries. We'll love to hear you again, maybe at Denver during the Zeeve Rollup Day. Thank you very much. But before we end, there is a quiz for you guys. Sorry, there's no quiz. You can relax. Just get the hat.
Hello. So how many of you are excited about building a roll-up? Can we have a show of hands, please? Come on, at least we've given you free lunch here. Let's have more hands up there. Yeah, okay, so I think we've heard, some exciting use cases, and the intent really was to inspire all of us to say that, look, there is something in it for us, for our business, for our industry. And if you have more queries, please, we have a roll-up advisory desk. Please reach out to us, and we'll be able to guide you even more on that. So we've had some conversations around ZK, and there were 3 panelists who are running their roll-ups on ZK. So there's so much happening on ZK, right? ZK is at the forefront of technology and innovation. And we have some established players like, we have Osman here from Polygon CDK who are, building some amazing stuff. We have, I think Shahar is here somewhere from ZK Sync. Yeah, I think they're building some amazing stuff. And there are a few other players knocking on the door. And one such player is Scroll. So the million-dollar question we want to ask is, will Scroll be the next challenger in the ZK Rollup battleground? And to answer that question, we have with us Raza, who is the head of growth at Scroll, and in conversation with our own Dr. Ravi, who's the CEO and co-founder at Zeeve. Yeah? The stage is yours, gentlemen.
Yeah, hi Raza, very excited to welcome you here on the Zeeve Rollup Day. So I think just a brief about you, your journey in Web3, and then a bit about Scroll.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Raza, head of growth at Scroll. Scroll's layer 2 ZK rollup on Ethereum. Launched mainnet about a year ago. Yeah, I've been in crypto 4 years, TradFi before that about 10 years. Yeah, started the Scroll about 2 years ago. Very, very excited. We came a long way. And I got some spicy stuff for you because I think definitely in the ZK space, we're no longer a challenger. We're already dominated.
Yep, so in terms of TVL, definitely Scroll is the biggest ZK-based layer 2 rollup in the Ethereum ecosystem. So what are some of the exciting, core value propositions or differentiators that Scroll offers some dApps or builders who want to launch on a ZK-based chain?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that if you look at our launch, 1 year ago, we launched mainnet. One of the things that we did really, really well is that just now WireX co-founder spoke about finality. And we had the fastest finality. We still have the fastest finality, which is essential for everything really. Even if you look at general use cases, what you don't want is, we spoke about bridges, we spoke about payments. You don't want rollbacks. You want a guarantee. So what we provide is economic security through validity proofs. But when we launched, honest is honest, our gas fees were high. We set up a roadmap for 1 year to lower our gas fees, accomplished that in 10 months, and now it's the next frontier. So, we believe that we have not capitalized on the potential of our main chain. Right now, we're developing our next-gen virtual machine, which is really, really looking good. Because at the end of the day, to enable the masses to really, really come, which is just not possible right now, is you need a higher throughput. If you look at emerging markets, having a cent swap is just not good enough. And it needs to be far, far less. And so we're very close to the builders in emerging markets. We're very popular in Southeast Asia, obviously China, Central Asia, LATAM. We've got builders in Africa, and this is a request. So they appreciate our security tech a lot. And the next frontier will be crushing the next benchmarks and making sure that this tech enables all the amazing stuff the builders are building.
Got it. No, I think that's very exciting. So I think you're definitely covered on the fast finality side or security side. So one of the challenges today that we see, and we understand that it's very early, the technology is still in the process of maturing, but the TPS has been a concern as far as ZK rollups are concerned. And I think as per L2B, most of the ZK EVM chains that we see in the L2 space, the TPS is typically a single-digit daily TPS. So what do you see how the innovation is happening, how soon we are going to see a better, higher TPS with a lesser transaction cost?
Yeah, I like this question a lot because I guess I'm a performance maxi myself. And so let's talk numbers, right, and data and track record. So I agree. I think that's a challenge for ZK Rollup because a ZK Rollup, for the people that know, you're actually running two networks. You have your chain that you're running and you run a proof network. And so depending on the type of ZK Rollup, because under the hood, not all ZK Rollups were created equally. They are all actually under the hood different. And so what our differentiator is that we built what we call the native ZK VM from scratch, bytecode equivalent compatible, one-to-one to Ethereum. If you look at, let's say, applied ZK, you look at a language called Noir. Love the Aztec team. They build it. You look at in their docs, we're the only ZK rollup it works on. And that's because we're a one-to-one to Ethereum. So now then when you talk about TPS, so when you launch a ZK rollup, it's a question of how you launch. And everyone had their own approach. We chose for reliability and security first, and then hyper-optimized performance, which the first frontier was gas. And again, we haven't reached it yet. We reached enough, let's say, an acceptable level, but we want to push these boundaries. So next is TPS. If you look at our TGE, we hit 110 on average. And that was a prelude for what is coming. I think that, needless to say, you need to hit 5-6 figures of TPS. And I'm pretty confident for our next level VM, next gen VM, we'll be able to hit that.
I think that's a pretty good number that you're talking about. And if we are able to achieve that, I think can be credible, especially as we are seeing, Uniswap announcing their L2 chain. A lot of big DeFi players are getting into launching their own Appchains and rollups. So of course, with fast finality, better security, better economic security, if TPS is also solved, the challenges of gas cost, etc., is also solved, I think it makes a lot of difference. So now, in terms of having your, in terms of the ZK chain, you already have been there for quite some time with the production mainnet, along with, as per TVL, leading the ZK chains. Now, recently, you have also launched a Scroll SDK, so that people who want to launch their own rollup using your SDK, they can do that. Now, that is a space which is where we already have Polygon CDK, we have ZK Sync, ZK Chain. So, what are your plans in terms of Scroll SDK and see how you compete in the in this space where more and more rollups are being built and aligning with one ecosystem or the other?
Yeah, to make it maybe clear that we're differentiating, I guess, along two angles. One is, if you look at Scroll, our ecosystem has always been the most, has contributed the most towards open source and has been contributed by open source contributors the most. So that will be at the heart of SDK. I think that having an open source stack that is easy to spin up for ZK chains is not really easy. I think that, again, when it comes to ZK rollups, the complexity is far, far higher. So one of the differentiators that we aim to achieve is that spin up your own chain, ZK chain, with the quality of a Scroll level chain, but with ease of dev experience. So if you look at our main chain, that was always one of the biggest compliments that we get, that the dev experience was great. And I think the second thing is that we'll have a range of gadgets that allow for interop. And I guess a third point is we don't partake in your governance. So there is no bridge lock-in, there's no shared bridge. This is a full open source stack. You go do your thing, run it. You can pick your RAS provider. You can pick the integrations that you want. Because if you look at, again, our DNA, we've always been an open source champion. And through this next product, we will remain an open source champion.
Got it. No, I think we definitely believe in this kind of structure. We being one of the early implementation RAS partner for Scroll, our team has already done a test setup, and we are hoping to onboard few customers and see how it goes. So right now, most of the ZK VM chain in the L2 space are still in the stage 0 stage, right? So from that perspective, as to see how more decentralization will start happening, because that has a massive impact on people who are building their own ZK rollups using Scroll SDK. So how do you see, in terms of vision, in terms of roadmap, the spanning out, moving to stage 1 or stage 2?
Yeah, the prioritization on our tech roadmap is very much driven by our community and users. We care the most about what they care the most about. And so decentralization is essential, I think, for very obvious reasons: censorship resistance, economic alignment, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at our tech today, our proof network is already distributed, which is the most complex part to, let's say, decentralizing your network. So we've made headway in going, not just like decentralizing, just talking about it or doing through governance, but actually on the tech level, which obviously unlocks participation and enforces censorship resistance the most. So I think we're making steps in there, and then we'll come out and like with an announcement in due time, where we'll be able to publish a roadmap where we say, okay, hey, this is the step 1, 2, 3. But what I can, and which you can already read about in the docs today, is that we have a distributed proof network, and there are, without mentioning brands, there are, I think we were the most forked ZK rollup stack before we launched our own stack on SDK. And there are players out there right now, I know them, they have decentralized sequencer, but it's permissioned at the moment, so it's distributed. So decentralization on a tech level, we spent a lot of time in it. We talk the talk and walk the walk. And so now it's just going to be a prioritization by our community. I mean, we launched the DAO, so there will be governance proposals, and then we will actually decentralize. We don't care about being the first. We were not the first ZK rollup to launch. Like, go ahead. We care about doing things right. So if anyone wants to go first, like, no message in that.
No, absolutely. I think I definitely agree with the point. So now, you know, in terms of, like, you are the head of growth at Scroll, and the main narrative has been that, you know, enabling more and more builders to launch their own chains if they require. Of course, somebody who is looking to launch their own app chain and rollup, there has to be a clear motivation for that. Because launching a chain vis-a-vis deploying your dApp directly on a public chain, whether it be L1 or L2, it's entirely a different story in terms of the responsibilities that you are taking. There's a cost attached to it. But at this, on the other side, you are getting a lot of benefits as well. You know, as Ed Felten mentioned today, your chain, your rules. While launching your own rollup, you have your own configurations, your own customization, a lot of independence, but it come at a cost. Now, you said that you know, Scroll SDK is pretty much open source and anyone can come in. There is no technical lock-in or any kind of business lock-in. So what kind of incentive model would be there for builders to use Scroll SDK vis-a-vis some of the incumbent players which are already there in this space?
Yeah, so I think the assessment that you will always make is along a couple of lines. So you have technical requirements that are driven by a product. You will seek distribution if that is a part of it, any economic incentive alignment. The driver for any product, whether that's picking our SDK or main chain, is going to be driven by what the user wants or the builders. That's as simple as it is. I think that it's not a goal to run your own chain. I think the goal is just how do you let's say provide financial infrastructure or a bank, the debank, provide yield opportunities. And the way I see our role is that we are tech builders. We provide the platform, whether that's our main chain or the SDK, for builders to accelerate and excel and achieve their goal. If the builder wins, we win. And so we don't push someone to the SDK or we don't push someone to our main chain. We're very close to our developer communities. We launched Keystore, an interop gadget, a while ago. Developers love it. They'll ask us, they hack with it, and we will support that, and we'll continue to provide innovative solutions like that. But we will never push for one way or another. I think to answer your question, I think I'm most bullish on app-specific sequencing, because from a UX point of view, it doesn't require the user to bridge to an L3 or a separate chain, but it provides a high throughput environment for an application to not share that sequencing or execution power. Because one of the things that is challenging in this multi-chain universe is that there's abundant block space. There's abundant block space and you don't need more block space. So I think that if you truly reason from a user point of view, I would argue that I definitely see the need for for a separate execution environment. But if you need an entire separate chain, I don't know.
Got it. No, I think thanks for the detailed insight on this. So one last question, since we have so many builders out here, so many builders who are going to access this online. So what kind of, in terms of adoption, in terms of use cases, whether it be industry-wise, whether it be use cases specific, where you see more adoption happening, which will drive more and more users into the Web3 ecosystem?
Yeah, I think the obvious answer is that DeFi has product market fit. But if you look at, I think, past 1.5 years, stablecoins obviously. Stablecoins has gone a huge adoption. Payments. Southeast Asia is I think, leading. Southeast Asia and specific African countries are leading payments. Again, I think that in the West, and particularly the States and Europe, you see this less because there's trust in the infrastructure, there's trust in the currency, but different regions battle with different challenges. And I think that what crypto allows is to have access to those, or crypto rails allow access to like features such as payment. And again, stable coins, which battles, let's say, the volatility of local currencies. That's where I see the biggest adoption right now. And then obviously, I mean, you see different ecosystems going into the game space, and RWA, obviously. So again, when it comes to yield opportunities, you see that going to the next level. Yeah, very bullish on stable coins and payments.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Raza. I think it was very, very insightful to get to know more about Scroll, your roadmap, some of the exciting developments that are happening, and especially working or partnering with Scroll on Scroll SDK. Looking forward to building together in the coming times. And thank you for joining today on the Rollup Day. Right, thank you.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much, Raza and Ravi. Yeah, so that was all the ZK conversation. But now we are set for the most exciting discussion, right? We're going to have a debate today, right? We have so many stacks, right? And when projects approach us, the first question they ask is, which stack do I choose? So let's hear it from the stacks themselves, right? So, so whose stack is it anyway? So it's going to be a battleground between the various stacks just now here at Zeeve Rollup Day. So let me invite on stage Osman Sarman, who's the senior manager at Polygon. Let's give him a big round of applause. Yeah, Osman reminds me of a Bollywood superstar, from India. So yeah, please welcome Osman. And we also promised to give him a hard time today. I'll also want to call on board Hunter. Yeah, Hunter is from is the community strategist at Arbitrum. Right, Matt from yeah, are you here? Oh yeah, there is Matt. So Matt, so Avalanche team says, why do you folks keep talking about rollups when you can actually set up a sovereign L1, right? So he's going to bring in a different viewpoint into this conversation. And can we have Shahar? Oh, Shahar is there. So Shahar, you got to wear a BD cap, okay? We specifically said let's have a debate between BD folks. Unfortunately, Omar Azhar of ZK Singh had to fly back to New York. So we have one of the technical gurus of ZK Singh here. But please don't give the BD guys a hard time, okay, Shahar? Okay, and to moderate that, we have Ravi, who's our CEO and co-founder. So Ravi, all yours. The stage is all yours.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think this is one of the most exciting panel for today. We have some very exciting panelists on this panel, and we are going to talk about, again, Appchains and Rollups. That is what the central theme of today's day. And so I think we can start with a quick introduction about yourself, what you are doing, your journey in Web3. I think we can start.
All right, we're good. We got it. All right. I also do a little bit of IT, apparently. Yeah, my name is Hunter. As they just said, I work at Offchain Labs. I've been here for about 3 or so years, helping scale Ethereum with Arbitrum, doing community management the first 2 years, community strategy this last year. And yeah, pretty much just anything that I can do, whether it be partnerships, BD, and even a little bit of research on the engineering side. So, I know a little bit about the chain. Definitely whatever I can do essentially to help onboard partners and teams onto Arbitrum, whether it be onto Arbitrum 1 or even their own sovereign chain.
Nice to meet you. Hey guys, this is Osman, or Oz. I've been at Polygon for around 3 years now, and I'm a part of the broader BD team, but we have this unique team at Polygon that we call enablement. We work with every 3 to 6 months, we select top developers, and we work with them from technical enablement to marketing enablement. And Zeeve was one of them for a while, so we developed a very strong relationship there as well. But yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Matt. I've been a part of the Ava Labs ecosystem growth team the past 3 years or so. Originally joined to be primarily focused on DeFi and institutional and capital markets, such as RWA, tokenization, etc. But since then, become more of a generalist, and so lead almost all of our external data partnerships, as well as help out with a variety of infra, tooling, and security projects as well. It's nice to be here today.
Hello, Shahar from Meta Labs. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm the head of partner engineering at Meta Labs. We are the humble creators of ZK Sync, where we try to scale Ethereum's computation and value without compromising on DevX or anything else that the user may care about. And it's great to be here. I will absolutely wear my BD hat for the day. At partner engineering, we care a lot about partners, so 100%.
Right. No, I think very exciting. So we have folks from ZK side, we have from Optimistic Rollup side, and we have Avalanche, which has its own ecosystem. So I think the first thing is, how do you see, we have now these very different stacks. So first, ZK is the hottest buzzword that we have been talking about in the last 1 year or so. The technology is still in the process of maturing. So what do you see, like, ZK being the clear winner here, or it will coexist with other stacks using some of the components, like, we were hearing from Ed today that, certain pieces of the optimistic rollup can still utilize ZK technology, not necessarily just on the prover side. So how do you see your views? I think we can start with Hunter. How do you see it pans out?
Yeah, so I think the way that we approach it at Offchain Labs is, at least a development from that perspective, is to create the best technology for the developers today. And I think optimistic rollup technology has kind of been one of the best technologies for scaling for the past couple of years. The 3 biggest rollups are optimistic rollups, frankly. But I do think that, actually with our recent announcement, we called it Your Chain, Your Rules, we released a couple of different updates and milestones that we'll be adding to the Arbitrum roadmap, including hybrid proofs. So ZK is definitely a very important part of Ethereum scaling. So I think we can all agree with that. And the way we're approaching it is rather, let's say turning everything from optimistic into ZK, we think that there's actually a world where both of them have their own advantages, and you could use both of them whenever they're needed. So in the future, you'll have, Arbitrum rollups will essentially be ideally proving, either optimistically or, with validity proofs. And generally speaking, I think that's the way we approach decentralization, it's the way we approach, innovating at like the chain level, and just want to make sure we're creating the best thing for the devs at any given time.
Pretty great answer. I think I'm going to second majority of the things that you said there. I think it's very hard to call a winner. We're still pretty early stages of a cutting-edge industry. A lot of developments are happening. I think the clear winner is going to not be decided by the infrastructure, Polygon, Arbitrum, these companies, but it's more like, okay, does the does the user have a good experience using this technology when making a payment? Do they really care about what they're using? Are they having, are they coming back to this technology? So I think stepping back, this industry is evolving. When Polygon, we're all trying to scale this industry overall, Ethereum, and I think overall this industry, blockchain industry. When Polygon first started, it started as a sidechain, and at that point, that was a great strategy. DeFi summer, very high gas prices. The fact that there's gas was also to start with was challenging, and then you had very expensive gas. So Polygon, started with the sidechain strategy, and then obviously very customer focused. ZK technology started becoming more popular. The promise there was we can execute everything on Ethereum. We don't have to have a separate validator set, which is kind of like a blue check mark on having a solid tech, because you're securing it by Ethereum. So we took the ZK path, and for the last year or so, it's pretty clear that that's not what users are looking for. Optimistic rollups are definitely have much more adoption, and we do have a lot of things coming up in the roadmap. I think it's about, again, being user obsessed. So we are pretty, still pushing on the ZK front, but it's not necessarily the only thing that Polygon will be doing, which we can get into in the upcoming. So I know it's a bit of a vague answer, but that's where I'm standing.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's great you guys are presenting some programmatic choices that you made at the beginning of the road, right? When the Ethereum rollup-centric roadmap was just presented, it was presented because it was a real problem, right? Because the Ethereum chain was unusable for so many different use cases. We at Meadow Labs, we did not make the pragmatic choice for at the time, but we just took it first principles. What are we trying to do here? And we're building for this. Because we are building with the assumption that we're all here for a reason, right? This blockchain is giving us things that different technologies are not giving us, right? And if we're not building in a way that truly utilizes the values, the security that is guaranteed by using a properly secure, properly decentralized blockchain, then, well, frankly, this industry might not even be here in a few years, right? And so our first principles were, what are we even trying to do here, right? And what we're trying to do here with the Ethereum rollup-centric roadmap is we're saying, okay, we're trying to scale the computation of Ethereum in a boundless way, right? We want to bring all the computation on-chain. Ethereum wants to be the world computer, and we have to find a way to make it happen, right? And at the same time, exactly, we have the rollup-centric roadmap. We have thousands of rollups, and they all need to interoperate with each other, right? So we went for ZK. And why is ZK the only way to actually materialize these goals for the blockchain industry at large, epitomized by Ethereum? Very short answer. It's two things. ZK is essentially just a proof of some computation, right? You are just doing some computation here, and you're proving it, and it's very easy to verify that the computation was correct, right? So essentially what you're doing is you're proving some computation, and then what both Polygon and Meadow Labs are seeing right now is that you can prove computations recursively. So you can prove this computation, and then you can prove the computation that proved the computation, and all of a sudden, with one single proof, you can prove all the computation for the world computer and submit this proof to Ethereum, right? So you truly have limitless scalability when you're going with ZK. And at the same time, ZK is the only technology that is pragmatic right now that is allowing true interoperability between different rollups. If you have a rollup cluster of optimistic rollups, and one of them, for instance, is an Optimium, well, it degrades the security assumption for all the other rollups on this cluster to also be an Optimium. With the ZK technology, we can have different rollups have, in the same cluster, have different security assumptions, have seamless trusted by Ethereum interoperability without hurting the UX or the security assumption that we're inheriting from Ethereum.
It's almost like ZK is optimizing for kind of perfection and more infrastructure, while all optimistic rollups are optimizing for user experience, I guess.
You could say that a few years ago. I don't think you can say that now, because we're here, we're on mainnet, we have many ZK chains that are on mainnet, and we have real users using it all the time.
Agreed. Right. No, I think very interesting views, and I think as Hunter mentioned, ZK is a clear winner. In fact, optimistic rollup, we have seen Succent, we have seen SP1 coming into OP, and so I think the direction is all, things have already started moving in that direction. So Matt, I'll just modify the question a bit for you. We have been working with Ava Labs for almost 2 years, launching quite a few Appchains. Many of them are in production. Now, Ava Labs has rebranded the whole stack as far as launching your own subnets, calling it permissionless L1s. And I think the overall, and from the architecture standpoint, it's very clear that Avalanche is more of a layer 0, where on top of which you can launch your own permissionless or permission L1s. Now, Rollups, when started, the whole idea was as a, to enhance scalability in the Ethereum ecosystem. But, but at the same time, it is given, it is very similar to Appchains, because it gives you all the independence. So how do you see Avalanche L1s competing in the Rollup space? Because end of the day, we are seeing a same customer, and they are looking at Rollups, they are looking at different Appchain stacks as well.
Yeah, so in my opinion, the biggest reason people launch rollups at this day and age is still just alignment for the Ethereum ecosystem. You're leaking value settling somewhere else at the end of the day, and if you control the whole sovereign stack, you're not really leaking that value. From a simplicity standpoint, I'd say launching a rollup might be slightly more simple in terms of platform engineering, especially if it's a centralized sequencer, you don't have permissionless fraud proofs, et cetera. But that's, I think, the primary main difference. And we are still using ZK technology in terms of privacy, proof of verification, et cetera. But we truly believe in horizontal scaling via sovereign L1s, like you mentioned. And so I think with that approach, Avalanche L1s have really started to proliferate. We have a native interoperability solution called Avalanche Interchain Messaging that essentially uses BLS signatures along with our platform chain to pass those messages, as well as a tamper-proof relayer network. But yeah, it's kind of my opinion.
No, I think that's pretty much on the same line. So it's very exciting to see, developers have got a massive choice today. Yeah, when launching a permissionless LMS, it's a different stack, different ecosystem, but at the same time, and you need to bring in the POS validators, but it has its own very distinct set of advantages. Now, speaking of the ecosystem, as you mentioned, what we are seeing, and one of the critique that has been there for last few months, I saw that in Token 2049, that different rollup stacks are leading to fragmentation in the Ethereum ecosystem, right? So Optimism carving out their own ecosystem. There's Superchain, there is Arbitrum Orbit clusters, there's Aggregator coming into picture, and then we have Elastic Chain, and then similarly Avalanche ecosystem. So how do you see this pan out in practice? Because we don't want fragmentation to happen. End of the day, it's Ethereum ecosystem, it's Avalanche ecosystem, and it becomes very important that there's a massive, massive interoperability that exists there. Yeah, Hunter.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a good question. I think interop is, it's funny, I think back maybe 2020, 2021, I remember attending some talks in New York City, where I'm from, people saying fragmented liquidity is what'll it's this existential crisis that we're all gonna face soon. And this is 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And I think it's something that, even though there are some chains already that have very, very deep liquidity, of course, like Arbitrum, like Ethereum, it is still important that we're connecting liquidity one way or another. And I think generally speaking, you can kind of look at interop at a couple of different levels. You have kind of stack-specific interop. So for Arbitrum, there's fast withdrawals, kind of taking that 7-day withdrawal period back down to 15 minutes. That was released a couple of weeks ago. You have chain clusters, so kind of being able to interact with Arbitrum-based chains, Arbitrum Orbit chains, at a much quicker speed than you could if you were just any other arbitrary chain. And then you also have kind of ecosystem-specific interop. So Ethereum, for example, I think there was an ERC. There's an ERC, I think that was released the other day, that a lot of different rollups, and I think ecosystems are showing alignment with. I think Polygon did it, Scroll did it, Arbitrum, of course, did it. And then I think even beyond that, you'll have layer 0 and other kind of solutions like that connecting to other alt-L1s. So I think interop is going to be something that there won't be one solution that solves all of it. There's going to be, just like there's tons of tokens, there's going to be tons of different chains, tons of different layers. But I do think that kind of the combination of these general interop kind of solutions tied into the stacks-specific solutions, again, like us focusing more on Orbit, that'll kind of bring what I think kind of that cross-chain future that everyone's kind of looking for. And I think for what it's worth, not everyone needs to be in like this kind of interop, kind of connected, you can say system. There are some people that just want to build a really, really good like chain product stack, but then they don't really need to be connected to anyone else. I think the idea here is to give people the option to do that. And frankly, I think if you're a developer and you're looking for a stack to deploy on, the more options, the more choices you have to build your app, the better.
So you're saying interoperability between interop solutions? It's like Inception. Interop Inception. I do agree with your point that not everyone has to be connected to an interoperability solution. At the end of the day, like you're building something and you need, hopefully, using a blockchain makes a good business case for it, and you use it. Aggregator is just, if someone's gonna leave with a takeaway from my side of this panel, Aggregator is not Polygon. Aggregator, hopefully in a year's time, we can ask all the panelists about Aggregator and they have something to say. We have, I think, like 50 core contributors, both infrastructure providers. Zeeve, you guys are attaching chains to the Aggregator. It's a bigger undertake. Nothing to, like, it's not Polygon branded, as you can see, and so on. But I think to Shahar points, I think this is where ZK comes into play. And like Aggregator is not an ecosystem, it's more like a solution, interoperability solution that takes ZK technology at its core. And one other important thing is it's not only Ethereum rollups, it's other ecosystems. We have efforts underway to connect movement. We spoke about we spoke about Cosmos with you guys. We're also working with another infrastructure provider to connect Solana. So it's a little bit broader than Ethereum interoperability. So yeah, that's, I think, two things that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because as time has went on, I feel like everyone's kind of converging on the same technology, where there might be 10 to 15 permissionless, basically like liquidity layers, and then an ecosystem of maybe hundreds of application-specific blockchains connected by interop technology of some sorts. And most of that is going to continue to get abstracted away from users. And then essentially with intents, solvers, et cetera, it's just going to route wherever you need whatever asset, whatever you're trying to do, et cetera, through. And so I think it's kind of funny because we're going full circle where I guess in last cycle it was a lot of monolithic permissionless environments, and now we still have those, but it's monolithic permissionless environments connected to application-specific blockchains, application-specific rollups, et cetera. And so it's definitely interesting. I mean, I think Cosmos as well as Polkadot had a lot of things right last cycle, but a lot of politics, drama behind the scenes, et cetera, made those two ecosystems a little bit challenging in terms of BD opportunities as well as just the ecosystem more holistically and generally succeeding. So,
yeah, I think I agree largely with all the points given here. I want to quickly say that I think the first thing we need to do is to acknowledge there's a problem, right? When the Solana folks come and attack us for the fragmentation in Ethereum, we shouldn't say it's not a problem, we should just acknowledge it's a problem. I actually think we should just lean into it, right? We have different ecosystem within the Ethereum ecosystem. Each of us have their own interop solution, and I think that's great, right? I think in the next couple of years, what we're going to see is the different solution coming into the market, and we're going to see what solution is going to gain more adoption. At the same time, what I think we should do is I think we should have some social consensus on Ethereum at large on the standards that we're using, such that whenever it is that we're choosing the interop solution that we feel like as an ecosystem, as a space, that is the best way to move forward, it's not going to leave other ecosystem behind. And so, yeah, at the same time, let the different ecosystems innovate and see who's going to win, but also collaborate on having the same standards so that nobody's going to left behind.
No, absolutely. I think that was very lovely insights from all of you. And I think the way we have seen it is, one thing it is established that we are going to have a multi-chain future. Now within multi-chain, we have seen modular ecosystem coming in. Within modularity, we have seen multiple startups, players, builders who have been building incredible technologies. So we are going to have multiple stacks, multiple ecosystems, and then interoperability layers which are going to bring them closer. So the way I see it is there would be a lot of competition, but competition definitely breeds innovation. But at the same time, there would be collaboration in terms of initiatives like AgLayer or Elastic Chain and various other interoperability layers. I think these are very exciting times, innovative times. At times, very, very confusing for the builders, but that is where we come in. We work very closely with all the major players and make it easy for the builders to decide, choose, and implement. So with that, we come to the end of our session. Thanks a lot for joining. It was very exciting session. And thanks once again from Zeeve, the Rollup Day.
Thank you.
Let's have a pose. Come on. Something like that. Come on. Osman.
Should we hug? Should we hug or should we?
Whatever. Yeah, Matt. Come on. Let's have a good pose.
Thank you. Great question. Yeah. Your name?
Ravi.
Ravi. Okay. Yeah.
I'm the co-founder, CEO.
Yeah. I recognize your face. Yeah. All right. How's it going?
Hello. Okay, friends, we have a very exciting, I hope, I was expecting some karate combat here, but for some reason the BD guys were a little subdued, but yes, I think we got some great insights. Well, coming up next is another very interesting panel. So friends, decentralized AI is really the intersection between AI and blockchain technology. So we have the next panel coming up, which is the role of decentralized data storage and private compute in decentralized AI. That's quite a mouthful, but to unravel the mystery of all this, we have a very exciting panel. So yeah, could I invite Kishori Conver, co-founder Optimum? Hey, come up. Yeah. Hey, let's give him a round of applause. Show some love, guys. Come on. Let's cheer up this panel. Okay, Tom Trowbridge, who's the co-founder at Fluence. Yeah, there you are. Then we have Kai, who's the co-founder at Impossible Cloud. Jack Platts, Hypersphere Ventures. And the moderator will be Dr. Chen Feng. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, fabulous. Very nice. So, Dr. Feng, the stage is yours with your team.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, so hi everyone. Welcome to our panel number 3. I feel very honored to have a wonderful team of speakers. As you can see, right, all co-founders of prestigious projects. So the topic for this panel is kind of a little bit future looking, right? Like nowadays, everyone is talking about AI, right? And some people are talking about decentralized AI. So that's why we want to get some unique insights from our wonderful co-founders, right? To share with us their perspectives towards decentralized AI. So maybe first of all, right, I will invite each speaker to introduce himself And since we are close to the end of the year, right, in particular, and please tell us what is the most important thing you have done, right, in this year. And maybe we can follow this order, right, please.
Okay. You can hear me?
Yeah, no. Maybe you can try. Okay.
Let me, yeah, that should work. Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Kishori Konwar. So I started my journey on this when I was doing my postdoc at MIT with Professor Nancy Lynch, you know, the Lynch of FLP result, and then Professor Muriel Medard, who's a, and at that time they wanted to bring together distributed algorithms and information theory to create a decentralized shared memory. And we started working on that since, I think, 2015. And then here we are. At that time, it was not very appreciated because decentralization was not the main theme. And over time now, we are at a stage where decentralization is very important. And that's what, and we started working on this project called Optimum. And here we are talking about it.
Hello, my name is Tom Trowbridge, co-founder at Fluence. Fluence is a decentralized compute platform. We've launched with CPU usage, and I think when you think of AI, you think of GPUs. And I think we'll get into a little bit more about the GPU versus CPU and where they come into play with regard to AI. I think one of the exciting thing we will launch this year, a year isn't over yet, so I think the exciting thing we'll launch is support for GPUs. So I'm looking forward in the very near term, but I will still talk about that as the course of the year. And before joining Fluence as a co-founder in 2019, I helped found Hedera Hashgraph, the layer 1 consensus algorithm HBAR.
Yeah, my name is Kai from Impossible Cloud. We built a decentralized AWS. Briefly, history. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I founded a large gaming company before. We had 1,400 employees, more than $1 billion revenue combined. I did a reverse merger through NASDAQ IPO. And that was really exciting, also building large-scale networks. I probably paid for AWS during my time as a CEO like $200 million just for cloud services. Before that, thousands of servers, like bare metal servers all around the world, low latency, hundreds of millions of users, and so forth. And I was always amazed by the cloud space. But I thought you can build this in a better way. And that's the reason why I founded Impossible Cloud. We started at Impossible Cloud with object storage. That's the first foundational service. We want to have a lot more services down the line, so the goal will be to build a holistic cloud, not all on our own. We also look for partners in the compute space and so forth. Right now there's a node sale token launch happening very soon, Q1. So node sale happening this year, as you talked about this year. We have what I think already sets us apart. We have more than 1,000 enterprise customers. We talk about Web 2 regular enterprise customers. They all pay in fiat money. It was not easy to build products that move these guys onto Web3 hardware. So the hardware is all run by third-party hardware providers, regular miners that also run nodes for other decentral networks. And it's working in a very high-performant way, which is super important. Otherwise, it would not work with all these customers.
Hello, my name is Jack Platz. I run Hypersphere Ventures. I co-founded the firm in 2020. Prior to that, I was an early team member at Polkadot, an early L1. So I've spent my whole career in crypto. And we have been investing in projects like those on the panel and Autonomous and others, focused on decentralized compute, decentralized infrastructure, and DePIN. And yeah, we have about 300 million assets under management based on the east coast of the United States and in London, and excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Okay, so very quick from my side. I'm Chen, head of research at Autonomous. At the same time, I'm a professor at UBC, right, doing research on blockchain. And that's why you will see for the coming questions, they kind of feel a little bit like a scientific, right? Because our purpose is to share like this, like insights about what is this decentralized AI. Okay. So, like a first question, right, is about this decentralized data storage, right? And we want to understand why it is critical for the future of decentralized AI, right? Why we are building this decentralized storage networks. So who wants to start? Yeah, the bus.
Maybe since the question is tackling storage, so maybe you can answer this one. I think this is super important. Of course, in AI, it really depends what you want to build. If it's like a LLM or like modeling and so forth, or if you have inference and so forth, inference will be the much, much larger use case down the line. Inference happens distributed or decentralized. Also, what's a really big challenge upcoming is inference with real-time data or with private data on top. What's very ridiculous at the moment, obviously, there's more and more data being generated at the edge. Already since a few years, much more data being generated at the edge and than in central. And what does not make sense is to really move all that data to central locations, then calculate there and move it back, and many, many use cases. And you have what's called data gravity or data locality. Moving data is very costly. Usually you want to have always this proximity between where the data is being generated and where it's being computed. And in order to make this happen, humankind will need much more decentral networks, able to store a lot of data and compute everywhere. And the amount of storage that you need is growing exponentially because AI is obviously producing much more data, and also AI is creating a lot more value for the data. So if you had an X-ray of a patient like 20 years ago and that patient died, you just throw it away. Nowadays, you keep that data and train the model. So that means value of the data increases, and you need these decentral networks to make this happen on the AI space.
Yeah, very nice. So basically, right, we now say like the need of like a massive like data storage, right, as anticipated very well. Okay, so next, right, now and we want to understand the challenges, right, the decentralized data storage networks face in order to support the scale and the speed, right, just mentioned by Kai, right? Yeah, so who wants to go, please?
Thank you. So this has several stages. As Kai mentioned, that there is a need for storage. So what does storing mean? Maybe it's some kind of memory. Who needs memory, right? So we have this idea of universal computing CPU, but we need something to store. So if you talk about storing, by the way, thanks for putting this timer, because sometimes I lose track of time when I talk about these things. So when you want to store something, you have to have some kind of specifications. The most general form that we are used to from our imperative programming, when you read a variable or write a variable, is that they should satisfy a specification. The most desirable specification is called atomicity or linearizability. And if you have done multiprocessor programming, it should be like shared memory. And also, these atomic memories can be composed. Each cell can be independently implemented. That's all great, it sounds. But how do you put it together? So, and you have to also tolerate failures, Byzantine behaviors, all of these in decentralized system. Yet, you want to have, in such a fundamental system, low latency, high throughput, low storage cost, and this atomicity specification. So having all of these at the same time is hard. On the other hand, distributed computing is about distributed synchronization primitives. Consensus is the highest form that we know in the consensus hierarchy. On the other hand, atomic memory, in the weight-free sense, is a much lower. So if you can solve this problem without constantly using higher level primitives, you can get a lot of speed. And that's what we focus on, actually, how you achieve that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I want to add, because as like academia, right, Optimum has like dozens or maybe more than dozens of research papers, right, and backing like this challenge. Why it is hard, right, and how to solve these problems. If you are interested more about, right, this like research, and feel free to approach Kishori, right, off stage. Okay, now let's move. Now we understand the need and the challenges of decentralized storage. We will move to another component, which is private compute, right? So the question is, how does private compute complement decentralized data storage in the context of decentralized AI, but in particular? And can we have some maybe examples, right, and to show that this combination can bring us significant advantages? Yeah. So,
well,
follow the order. Yeah.
I can start on the compute side for a second. I guess what I'll say is that start looking at centralized compute and centralized AI. And I think the problem comes very clear when you look at the Google Gemini image debacle, which happened about 6 months ago, where the images you saw generated by Google were sort of farcical in their kind of political correctness gone wrong. And what you saw, well, that was evidence of an incredible amount of pressure applied to the model. And it was applied to generate certain outcomes. And those outcomes, I think, you would see in text, but an image was incredibly obvious. And so what you see as these AI models become more used and more the sense of truth, the way Google is now, the constituencies that have a vested interest in particular outcomes only increases. That's governments, it's special interest groups, it's activists, it's shareholders, it's board members. Everyone wants certain results to happen and certain results not to happen. And what the clear example of that, at the nth degree, we just saw, which was Google Gemini images. So that's what happens with centralized AI. Just a question of when and how much. Decentralized AI is the alternative to that, and I think will become more trusted. To get to decentralized AI, you need to have decentralized compute. If you don't have decentralized compute, then you are centralized, right? So compute has to run in different geographies, in different hosts, with no central points of failure. And there's both the compute to train the model and compute to run the model. And so the different types of compute are required for each one of those. And so I think that is just kind of a high-level perspective on why you need decentralized compute if you ever want to have any type of free AI whatsoever, as opposed to an AI which is completely controlled and manipulated by governments or particular interest groups. Jack, to you.
I definitely agree with what Tom said. And from an investor standpoint, we think about the bottlenecks in AI and decentralized compute, but also AI more broadly. So there's the compute piece, there's the data piece, and then there's the models and the algorithms. So we've been trying to invest in areas of all three. And from the compute side, as Tom was saying, there's a question of, can it happen faster in a decentralized network? Or can it happen cheaper? Because otherwise there isn't as much of a benefit. And then when you think about, okay, what is happening? It's either you have to train the models or you have to run the inference. So when you ask ChatGPT something, it responds. So that's the inference piece. And which part can be done at the edge, or edge computing of the network. So we have different investments in that area. And then on the data piece, at this point, the AIs have crawled all the available data, and a large and a growing percent is now being put behind walls. So companies like New York Times are making it much more difficult for AI crawlers to go out and crawl that data. But for more or less, a lot of it's been crawled to train the models. And at this point, what's very interesting is, okay, what are the use cases to unlock with private compute, or in a way where a company that's doing drug discovery or trying to become the next great hedge fund, that they feel comfortable sharing their data or with the model. And I think that there's a lot of reluctance for a next generation drug discovery platform to share their data with, say, OpenAI. And so there needs to be an ability for them to share it with potentially a third party. Maybe that's where crypto comes in, so you can kind of guarantee certain properties or certain things about how the computation was was done on the data to ensure that no third party has access to your trade secrets or your scientific breakthroughs.
Yes, thanks a lot, Jack. Yeah. Okay, so let me track the time. This comes our last question, which is a little bit open-ended. What are the most promising technology innovations you have seen, right, in the either like decentralized storage or private compute that could revolutionize decentralized AI in the next few years? As I said, right, a little bit open-ended question. Yeah, who wants to try first?
No, go ahead if you go, or I can mention. So one of the interesting model is what they call data availability. And it is an important aspect, but it is not directly linked to AI. So what you need is actually the data itself. And so that's a very innovative step when you have a Byzantine environment and you want some guarantee that the data is there when you need it and you need to store it at a lower cost. So that's a very foundational step. And I think the next stages would be how do you, as you see in one of the recent posts by Vitalik on the roadmap of PERS, that can you use actually eraser codes to store a vast amount of data and scale indefinitely. And I think that is one of the new things I have seen recently. And we are very much in line with that because that's one of the things we strongly believe in using.
You know, I think that decentralized storage and compute are foundational to decentralized AI. And I think these are both very difficult problems, very hard to solve and very hard to solve at scale. And that's what, a couple of us here are working on along with many others. So getting that right at scale is a massive achievement, and that's kind of in progress. I don't think it's fully completed yet. But I'd say that there's a lot of fascinating things in DPIN, and I will make a plug right now for our DPIN Day tomorrow, dpinday.xyz. We're hosting, hundreds of people and top experts in DPIN. And so if you want to learn more about that, come to DPIN Day tomorrow right here in Bangkok.
Yeah, maybe also that from my side in terms of innovation. I agree with what Tom said. Building systems at scale is ultimately the door opener to bring mass adoption, right? And I think Web3 is at the inflection point of still early adoption, but mass adoption is coming. Just like some numbers, I always like, I'm a numbers guy, I like numbers. So there are around like 3,000 DeepIn projects. Valuation of them, massive, 120 billion. But currently their combined ARR is like below 20 million, right? That's really, really low. I think it's important that products are being built on top of Web3 technology, and there is a lot of focus. And then if you build these systems at scale, I believe by the end of the decade, what is now valuation can become potentially ARR. That's what we build in. In terms of technological advancements, I think it's a gradual approach, step by step. You should just implement what's there, what's good. Most of the projects right now, I think in the space, are still struggling with very sophisticated tech approaches that are way, way, way too slow. Talking about like 2 orders, 3 orders of magnitudes too slow to serve mass market, right? And that's hindering a lot of the mass market adoption.
Yeah, I think the thing that is most exciting for people or capture the most imagination is probably the Truth Terminal project, the Twitter chatbot that has it's 2 different models, LLM speaking to it itself and then putting out tweets and then people creating kind of coins or projects around the tweets. I think that seems to have really struck a chord with the industry at large for what a potential, economic agent in the world could do. And if it has its own capital and its own ability to take actions, what those actions would be. And I think the more we have kind of experimentation at the edges for unlocking people's imagination and human ingenuity, we'll continue to see a lot of the smartest minds go not just from crypto to AI, but back and forth.
Yes, thanks a lot. I completely agree, right, with the insights from speakers here. And in fact, right, at Autonomous, we launched our mainnet, first one last week, and we will be very busy next year integrating this private compute and decentralized storage at scale, right? The difficulty is at scale. And we feel that it's not only about one project, right? Maybe it's like a collaboration through multiple projects, right? How to like open up the innovations from blind young minds. That's why I feel very lucky and honored maybe like to deepen the collaborations with the projects here and together, right? We might be able to develop a bright future for AI. Yes, thanks everyone. This concludes our third panel. And thanks again for every speaker's wonderful insights. Really appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Come on, let's have a big round of cheer. Come on, let's show some energy now, okay? Right, that's the way to go. So we're very happy to have with us today Marc Boiron, who's the CEO of Polygon Labs. And he's going to be addressing a very interesting problem that we are facing today. You know, today we have so many protocols, we have so many chains, and we just heard in the morning that, you know, we would probably have 1,000+ rollups and Appchains in 2025. So this huge problem of fragmentation and so on, right? And Polygon is building something which is really cool and exciting called the Ag Layer. But, you know, we have, obviously we have someone like Marc who's super qualified to talk about it. So for that, I'd like to welcome Marc Boiron. Give a round of applause, please. CEO of Polygon Labs. Hey, by the way, Marc was Chief Legal Officer at Polygon, and then he became CEO. So Marc, tell us, what is the transition like of a Chief Legal Officer to the CEO?
It feels very freeing to no longer need to just think about all the bad things that can happen, and you can actually think about good things.
Right. Thank you so much, Marc. The stage is all yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate Zeeve putting on this event. It looks like it's been awesome so far. So, all right, I am here to talk about the issues we have with just cross-chain transactions today. And one of the things that we're developing along with many other collaborators at Polygon Labs is the Ag Layer. So before kind of getting into the Ag Layer, I'm going to tell you everything that is currently wrong with Web3. And there's actually a lot that is currently wrong with Web3, unfortunately. So kind of some of the key things that we're looking at, right, is like, first we're talking about like the fragmentation being an issue. We've got scalability that is still an issue. We've got security that is an issue. And we've got a poor UX. Unfortunately, when you have all of these things that are not actually working well, you've got to kind of like analyze like what are you comparing things to? And what we're comparing things to is Web 2, right? And the reality is like we want Web 3 to eat up as much of Web 2 as possible. And so we need to solve these issues. So when we talk about fragmentation, like what are we talking about? Just a level set. First, we're talking about the fact that there's many chains that have many different assets. In many cases, these assets are wrapped assets. They're not even the same assets on all of these different chains. So as a user, when you want to interact from one chain to the other chain, you're literally talking about like assets that are like USDC dot something instead of just USDC. And you need to keep track of that, right? That is just not an okay experience, like whatsoever in any way whatsoever for a normal person who's going to be like, I have 10 different versions of some stable coin in my wallet. Like that doesn't work out. Similarly, scaling. We look at like the scale of Web 2, and we talk about a blockchain being able to like handle payments around the world, or a on-chain exchange. And when you start like looking at these numbers, you start realizing that like this is not something that we are going to be doing on one chain. It's not possible, which makes that first problem, fragmentation, a guaranteed issue that we cannot solve by just putting everything on one chain. By the way, just very side interesting fact, I love it when people say that we're going to put like the NASDAQ on chain. I think that they can execute transactions with like a 50 microsecond latency. Forget like milliseconds, we're talking about like microseconds here. Good luck ever having that on a chain. You're not going to. And that's okay. Like Web3 is actually not the answer to every single problem in the world. It just needs to answer the problems that we actually do have. The next one is security. This is a picture of like what things look like today without kind of aggregation or the ag layer, and what you get is tons of cross-chain transactions that are like from between insecure bridges or using intent, and like there is a massive lack of security in cross-chain transactions. And then you've got a UX issue, where you basically have like wallets that mostly don't solve the issues, but there are some awesome ones that soon will solve these issues for all of us. Shouting out specifically, why not, to Magic in the crowd over here, going to help solve that. You know, we got bridges and intents, and again, like it's all fragmented, works in different ways, high costs that gets transferred onto users or subsidized, but can only be subsidized for so long. And then you've got like standalone chains that operate on their own, but really can't operate between them in any great way. And so, really, when you like put this all together, you're like, okay, maybe we should find some solutions. So like the first solution that people try to sell everyone is that we can all just operate on monolithic chains. The thing is, they don't actually do that many transactions if you bring Visa and MasterCard into the picture, let alone NASDAQ. And so, no, like a monolithic chain is not the answer to bringing even one exchange or one payment system, let alone all of it, on-chain. Similarly, we've been sold on the modular thesis, that you just modularize everything and you take different pieces and then you're good to go. But when you kind of look at that, what you get is you start getting chains. Very proud of Polygon, but you know, still not actually good enough. You probably need all of this TPS to kind of come together in some way. And the way that you do that, when you've got limited performance, is by aggregating every chain. And the benefit of aggregating every chain and bringing them all together is that you get to unify three like important things. First is state, the second one is users, and the third one is liquidity. And I'll talk about this in kind of a little more depth. And so if we do this, what do we get? Two like important things. One, practically infinite block space. So when you say, hey, I need more block space because this blockchain can't handle every transaction in the world, then you spin up another chain and it takes on that added kind of block space that's needed. But then you really need to bring together one kind of unified bit of liquidity into like one piece. And so what does this really look like? And ultimately, it is bringing together all of this under the ag layer. So I kind of like walk through real quick like what the ag layer is, and rather than working through like a definition of kind of a neutral platform, I think I'll show you kind of like the key components. But I think when we talk about this, the thing you should keep in mind is that the ag layer is not just a Polygon thing. It's actually specifically not called the Polygon ag layer. Actually, the ag layer repo is not in the Polygon repo. It's actually completely independent. And the reason for this is because Polygon is intended to unite all of Web3, not just Ethereum, all of Web3. And so what you're going to see is you will see chains from different stacks, OP stack, Orbit, as well as Polygon CDK, ZK stack. You will see all of them connecting to the ag layer. You'll eventually see L1s in the Cosmos ecosystem connecting to the ag layer. Across the board, we want to connect all of Web3, because as big as Ethereum is and as amazing as Ethereum is, it is not all of Web3, and people will always choose to use other solutions, and they should be able to do it in a safe, low latency, cheap way. So that's really where the ag layer comes in. It's really like 4 components to think about for the ag layer. The first one is, we refer to this as a pessimistic proof. In fairness, we are kind of taking a little bit of shot at like optimistic rollups there by basically saying you should be pessimistic about every chain. You should assume that every chain is going to try to rug their users at some point. That's an assumption. I mean, this is the whole point of crypto, is that like you shouldn't need to trust anybody. And so you should also, when you're executing cross-chain transaction, assume that somebody is going to try to execute a transaction and use assets that they didn't actually have on a chain. And so the pessimistic proof is this concept of basically saying, we are going to look at every transaction that has ever entered a chain and every transaction that have ever exited a chain. And then when you want to do a cross-chain transaction, this proof is going to confirm that the assets that you actually want to send actually exist. And this is like the core security that is provided, and unlike existing bridges and other interoperability solutions today, it is actually trustless because of this ZK proof that is being used to create what we refer to as this pessimistic proof. The second one is that it lowers the cost. And so if you've heard Vitalik speak and many others, you'll have heard that like ZK is the future, and that effectively what you should assume is every chain will have execution proofs on them in the future. So every chain will use ZK proofs. If you live in that world and you don't have aggregation, then what you have is every single chain submitting proofs to, let's say, Ethereum, again and again separately. That's actually very expensive. And so what we can do instead, and what is part of the Ag layer, is that we actually aggregate those proofs. So just imagine 3 different chains create proofs. You take those proofs, you wrap them together into another proof, and imagine 3 other chains created a proof and wrapped them together. You then take the wrapped one over here and the wrapped one over here. You wrap that together, and then you submit that to Ethereum, and the size of that proof doesn't matter. The cost that you put, the cost on Ethereum is basically going to be the same. And so you significantly reduce the cost of using execution proofs across the board, including the cost of the pessimistic proof itself. And it becomes super, super cheap to use execution proofs. And actually very interesting side note, I don't love to do side notes, but I'm gonna do a quick one here, which is people often say ZK rollups are more expensive than optimistic rollups. This is like actually fundamentally untrue. And the reason for this is because optimistic rollups have 7-day exit windows. Nobody wants to wait 7 days. So what do? You pay somebody a boatload of money to actually exit within like an hour or 2 hours, whatever it might be. We've looked at the cost of all of Arbitrum and how much it has cost people to use fast exits. And it is significantly, like multiples more expensive than if there was execution proofs on the chain. And so this tells you, because you can exit in an hour with execution proofs. And so this tells you that execution proofs are just fundamentally, literally cheaper than having fraud proofs. The third thing here is a unified bridge. We talked about this fragmented liquidity and these wrapped tokens. With one unified bridge, the assets can be transferred from one chain to the other, and you do not have wrapped assets. You have the same asset on every chain. And so when you are going to go to your wallet, and you're going to say, I want to send one asset from chain, from X layer to, in the future, Newton chain, then what you're going to do is look at your wallet, and the asset that you had on X layer is the exact same asset that you had on Newton. And that's the user experience you want. You shouldn't have to think about different assets. That doesn't really make any sense to have to think about different assets. And then lastly is fast interop. And so often people think of anytime you talk about interoperability as a bridge and nothing else. Think about the Ag layer as a bridge plus, right? A bridge plus security, a bridge plus fungible tokens, a bridge plus, in this case, fast interop. And so basically, one of the things that we're focused on is bringing sub 5-second, and I'm being very, very, very conservative here, cross-chain transactions in this secure way with fungible assets to all of Web3. And this is a side note. When I say all of Web3, how are you going to get that? We've been talking a lot about proofs and stuff. I should pause for 1 second and go back to this pessimistic proof. So in this pessimistic proof, we talked about the security that it enables. This pessimistic proof could prove anything. And so here's what I mean by that. You can take a chain that has execution proofs, like Polygon ZKVM or Xlayer, and you can prove the validity of that proof, and you can execute the transaction based off of that. You could also say instead, I want to prove consensus. So you could go to a Cosmos chain that has 100 validators. It can meet consensus, and then you can prove that consensus. And the second that consensus is satisfied, you now have a security guarantee when going cross-chain. Technically, you could literally just take a database on AWS and check all the transactions on that database and allow cross-chain transactions based off of that simply because you have a security guarantee. And that's how we get every single chain in Web3 to be able to connect to the Ag layer. Now let's talk about just a little bit of like some of the practical benefits here. I've talked about the native tokens. I think that one's like an important one. It's what makes kind of the UX actually good. Second one is safe cross-chain transactions. Again, we've talked about that one. Third one, compatibility. This is something that we haven't talked about. So a lot of people look at the Ag layer and they say, okay, this is nice and all, but like I'm already working with like a shared sequencer, or I'm working with intents. Like, what does this give me that I can't already get? And by the way, they'll say like those are actually better user experiences, for example, than what you can get with the Ag layer. These are all like actually accurate statements, by the way. But the Ag layer is compatible with all of those things. So the Ag layer allows like asynchronous transactions. So transactions that do not occur in the same block on Ethereum. The idea with something like shared sequencers is that you can actually have atomic transactions or synchronous transactions that are actually happening in the same block. So you want to like go ahead and like take a flash loan on Aave so that you can execute another transaction somewhere else. On another chain, you can actually do that with shared sequencers, and the Ag layer is built to be compatible with shared sequencers. Similarly, like intents. You want to use a cross to go from like one chain to another chain that's supported by the Ag layer, then you can go ahead and use a cross to do that. You don't need to use the Ag layer, but the Ag layer will add security to that transaction. On top of it, it's going to reduce the cost of that transaction. Because if you think of how intents work, what it is you have a solver on one chain that has a lot of capital, and you have a solver on another chain that has a lot of capital, and when you want to execute that cross-chain transaction, the capital is then used to transfer it to you. Problem with that being that now there is less capital on that chain in that token, and it needs to rebalance. Rebalancing results in two things: a potential cost in terms of the change in value, but also in terms of actually needing to hold a lot of capital. When you can rebalance in sub 5 seconds or hopefully less on the Ag layer, you can quickly rebalance with very little like risk, which means you need less capital and there's less like slippage risk, and that means that that intents and solvers can provide better pricing than they could otherwise, which benefits the users. Messaging. We think of like the Ag layer as like an asset-first protocol, but it also allows for messaging. This is kind of the opposite of what most bridges are. Layer 0 allows for messaging, and it transfers assets. This is actually focused on assets being transferred, which is the majority of what we actually do in Web3, but can also handle messages. Lastly, it allows for better chain abstraction. There's, for example, a kit that we built, which is called Bridge and Call, and this is a kit that allows for you to, for example, bridge from Ethereum in the same transaction. You can then buy an NFT over there, and then in the same transaction, you can actually execute it. Just one click, and it actually executes multiple call functions on different chains. And so it makes for, obviously, a much better user experience. Lastly, it's going to be extremely low latency. Given that I am mostly out of time, I think what I'm mostly going to finish with is that this is a bunch of the core contributors that we have. It needs to be updated because somebody did this about a week ago, but lots of great core contributors and even more. Bottom line, Ag layer is not run syncing. It's made for everybody, and that means that you can come connect to the Ag layer, not pay anything, and get all of these security guarantees, as well as low cost and low latency. So we've solved fragmentation, we have solved scalability, we've solved security, we've solved the UX challenges, and we're left with one beautiful Web3 that is synchronized and no longer fragmented. That's it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Marc. Thanks so much for your time. It was wonderful to have you with us, and thanks for sparing the time for being with us at Zeeve Rollup Day. So with that, friends, I hope we've got a lot more insight in terms of what it will take and what the future holds as far as interop is concerned. And we're far more educated than we were before this particular presentation. I'd now like to invite Nicole. Nicole, where are you? Yeah, okay. So Nicole, the stage is all yours, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Thomas. So thank you everyone for making back to the room. As I promised you in the beginning, today we would also discuss about not just about the technical trends and what's going to shape the blockchain, the next, let's say blockchain, the adoption for blockchain, but also we would like to give you like a glimpse into the local landscape and obviously some of the existing verticals and challenges in DeFi infrastructure that we are also looking at, in the Southeast Asia and Asian ecosystem. So I do like the presentation, from Marc, because basically he has set the stage for the next panel on DeFi, where we would be talking about whether we would be able to make DeFi great again. And whether we would be able to see the DeFi renaissance. So with that topic, I would like to invite to the stage our stellar panelists here. We have Laura Shi, CEO of Mega ETH. We have Ashutosh Sahu, CEO of Zero Finance. We have Nikki Chalabi, Head of DeFi from Tyco. We have Pete, Head of Partnership at Contribution DAO. And please welcome our moderator, M. Udomsuk, from the co-founder at Forward Finance. So we do have a very interesting, please come forward, go to the stage, don't be shy. We do have a very interesting mix of, builders, chains, infrastructure, as well as different countries here. So we do hope that you will be able to have a better look at how we will be able to make DeFi great again. So please over to M.
Yeah. Thank you for the introduction. We have an interesting panel discussion over here, which is a DeFi, DeFi renaissance, how to make it great again. So I think you guys already probably know the answer already, but let's listen from the panelists here. So my name is M, that's my nickname. In Thailand, we call each other by nickname. You probably know the reasons. Our full name are super long, right? So I'm a co-founder of FWX, also a full-time university professor in mathematical finance and a part-time KOL. So, guys, would you mind introducing yourself and about your projects briefly?
Okay. Okay, hi. My name is Pete from Contribution DAO. We are institutional grade node validators with high standard with SOC 2, with ISO 27001. We are really specialized in Southeast Asia, especially Thailand. Yep.
So yeah, my name is Nikki. Thanks for having me here. So I am with Tyco, and Tyco is the first based rollup in Ethereum. As you may know, Tyco launched on mainnet end of May this year. And we've seen a tremendous growth, and so we're growing, and happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm Ashu. I'm the CEO of Zeru. We are building an omni-chain credit infrastructure and DeFi money markets on top of this credit layer.
My name's Laura. I'm the COO of Mega ETH. So Mega ETH is a high-performance layer 2 with 100,000 TPS with million-second level of latency. We believe that is a key product differentiation today, definitely layer 2 need within the EVM ecosystem.
Right. Thank you for the intro. So, let's begin with one of the first questions about like how to make DeFi great again, right? So, the DeFi has come a long way, like years ago. And what achievements or progress do you believe laid the foundation for the stronger future? So let's begin with the contribution now, Parson.
Okay. I believe that we come so far. We grow so much like in terms of like number of users, but beside that, we also like we start from like one person sending money to another person, and now we have like something like decentralized exchange. We have yearn farming. We have like lending protocol, and I think these are set up the fundamental for the DeFi. So now we see a lot of like new narrative. For example, like yearn trading, LRT, LST, right? So I think with these, maybe like set the new standard for like the new project to build on top of them. And I believe with a lot of VC still like excited to like invest on DeFi project. I actually really excited to see the upcoming DeFi project.
Right. How about like Nikki? Would you like to add on that?
Sure. So I mean, generally speaking, if we just look at the evolution of DeFi, right? In 2016, for example, we witnessed the first, let's say, decentralized exchanges like Ether Delta, then you had Fork Delta and stuff like this, right? And the UX was pretty clunky and slow, and also those like solutions weren't super decentralized. And then in 2018, we've seen like, for example, I believe it was November 2018, we've seen Uniswap launching like the AMM model. So we have seen also the evolution of DEXs going from there, like then we had the concentrated liquidity launching, right? And then now we have a multitude of products, right? Like for example, in 2021, if we had like LSTs becoming popular, now we, for example, are witnessing LRTs, but also we're seeing like a lot of like BTC-Fi also emerging and becoming super relevant as well. And essentially you have much more liquidity in that ecosystem as well. And like they are trying to kind of like tap into that liquidity as well. So, and what I can say, of course, we'll see DeFi going further, and generally speaking, it is the most, I would say, relevant use case so far in this space, unfortunately. But I think like, because like, you know, generally speaking, finance is the usual suspect to like, we want to kind of disrupt. This is number one. But number two is also like something like people understand, not maybe majority, but to a certain extent, like people are kind of used to it. And we will see more like, for example, RWA products coming into the play, like, and of course we'll see more regulation coming into the play when it comes to DeFi, but I do believe that the space will grow further and actually will flourish.
Right. I haven't heard of the Ether Delta for a very long time already. So, and after that we have Uniswap, and you laid down like so many projects that have been built, you know, to make DeFi what it is today. So I'll ask Ashutosh, what we have seen the building blocks of DeFi, you know, from past to present, and we have always been talking about how to onboard users. Right, the mainstream users, the mass adoption. So how can DeFi projects make user onboarding more accessible? Are there emerging projects or ideas that you are, you know, think that are setting a new standard or user-friendly projects?
I think there are three things. One is aggregation. Second one is simplification. And third one is potentially rewarding good behavior, right? Now, obviously, in the previous keynote, and as Nikki mentioned, aggregation is needed. And as you know, you also mentioned, right? There are so many LSTs, LRTs, newer real strategies, BTC-Fi coming up. It's impossible to keep track. So users, now if you want to onboard the next wave, you necessarily don't have to give all of those strategies on a single platform, but you can handpick and provide some of the strategies, right? So that is the role of aggregation. Now simplification is, right now, providing liquidity on Uniswap or a perp DEX is extremely difficult. I have to determine the concentrated range for providing liquidity, and if the position goes outside the range, I have to rebalance it. And advent of AI can greatly help automate all of this. So that is simplification. And lastly, if you see traditional finance evolution, right? If you go back to the 70s, 80s, a lot of capital inefficiency and a lot of idle capital used to exist, right? Same is the case today with Aave and incumbent lending borrowing protocols. There's a lot of over-collateralization and underutilization of assets. Almost $16 billion worth of asset on chain on Aave is idle. Right? Now, all of this changed when there was a credit infrastructure introduced in Web 2. And that gave rise to a $4.5 trillion economy, because credit cards came through, educational loans came through, personal loans came through. So something like a credit infrastructure which is truly decentralized, truly omni-chain, and powered by AI, without KYC, without doxing the user, that I think is going to be the next explosion.
Right. So we have aggregation and the simplicity, and the like I would say like a capital efficiency. Would that be the word? Yeah. And how about Lola? Would you like to add on the same question? I'll repeat the question again. To onboard the mass adoption, what would be the ideas that you probably are having in mind to actually onboard the mass to actually get into DeFi?
I think my experience in this industry gave me heading up into a conclusion saying it is not about introducing, especially from DeFi perspective, introducing a totally new financial product. I would say in the past 100 years, the development and innovation of financial product have been comprehensive enough. And if you check about what happened in the past 12 months, like for example, Pando, it is actually following the same logic of a long existing financial product or service in the traditional market. But the block, and no mentioning that people who have been well educated in terms of how to earn financial return from a product or service, that is something every product developer want to well capture. You don't want to introduce a new idea that's too new, that people can't have it mapping with what they already know in their own mind map. But the problem today at the moment is that given the existing friction for people even onboarding assets to the crypto world, there's a lot of frictions to making people trying to earn some money from reputable projects that they trust. Therefore, majority of the crypto participants today end up being lost money, got scammed, or in fact put their money into a failed project. What I would say make more sense is that please allocate more like logic into the smart contract on-chain, because in today's market, the only two things that, in our opinion, sustainable from the debt perspective is either you make people truly own the asset, not only the ERC20 token, but also like the asset or the financial product themselves. That will be the long-term goal. In the medium term, what is capable to deliver will be provide visibility. Most of the DeFi projects today, I would call them CDFI, reason being, one, I put my money into a vault, it's end up as a black box. That kinds of things actually not only ends up getting you being caught by your local regulators saying you're operating a financial service, but also make lack of scalability for your project, because it is always very difficult for build up trust in the mass market, and that make your business operation more heavy, like very heavier, even at same level as the traditional way of traditional finance. That's my take.
Right. So being less centralized and not be the decentralized in this case, that will be the thing. So we have seen DeFi, prospered. And then, because of the market cycle. So I'll ask Nikki on this question. How can we make it resilient? Like how to make DeFi like resilient and no more, cycles again?
I mean, to make generally speaking something resilient, you have to kind of reach the escape velocity. And I personally think that at the moment, DeFi is nowhere the escape velocity, to be honest. And if we look from the chain perspective, like, all of us were trying to kind of, we're competing for the same liquidity, for the same users when it comes to DeFi. Essentially what we're doing, we're actually renting liquidity from each other to a certain extent. Unfortunately, that's the case. And in order for us to make it more resilient, of course, we need to have, first of all, great products. But apart from the products, you have to also have users. And you have to get like normal average users into the space. I just generally don't think that the space is at the level where you can actually onboard, like, let's say, a billion of users like we always like to claim, because in the end of the day, like, the users still need to go through frictions, right? Like, for example, they have to be at least comfortable to have a browser wallet, like they have to manage their seed phrase. And that's not the best, I would say, user experience. And that's the reason why we see actually more users on the centralized exchanges. Like, for example, if you look at Binance or Coinbase, they have like 150 million to 100 million users, whereas if you look probably at DeFi, like it's not even close to that, not even like probably 10%, right? And essentially, like that's the important thing to, I would say, solve is the user experience. And also, you know, the other part is the security element of it. Because in the end of the day, whenever you're using the DeFi, any DeFi protocol, you're actually like relying on smart contracts. And there's always a smart contract security risk. So that's why like to also kind of, you know, if we want to have large volumes of capital flowing into DeFi, like they have to be also sure that, you know, nothing will happen to their capital. So you have to resolve from one end the UX UI issue, and then from the other end, like people have to be kind of comfortable to utilize those protocols.
And let's talk about the AI a bit, because AI has been a big topic in, you know, not only in the Web2 space, but also in Web3 space. So Ashutosh, like how can AI add the real value to DeFi?
In computation, so obviously in the last 2 years, AI has evolved a lot. So there are, you know, before the advent of AI, we used to see predictions on expected values, right? So, which is based on historic data and probabilistic models. But with advent of AI, LLMs, and computation power, we can now do predictive models, right? So one of the areas where we use AI extensively is in predicting the probability of liquidation of a wallet. Now, if I know that the probability of liquidation is really low, then I can actually give him custom leverage up to 15x on his positions wherever he wants to take it, right? Other area where we use AI extensively is in rebalancing positions on DEXs while providing liquidity. So we take a lot of data that is available, and you know, the gold mine lies in predicting the next tick. And I think AI is helping us get there.
Right. So the next trader is probably AI trader. So Laura, you was talking about the DeFi products. They were actually from traditional finance, like talking about Pendo and some other products. So how would you how do you see the, you know, implementing DeFi to actually transform, or how would affect the traditional finance? And what impact do you envision DeFi having on traditional financial inclusion and accessibility of finance into banking into coming years?
Understood. There's actually one interesting project that we're incubating at the moment within Mega Mafia. Mega Mafia, or like that is a core ecosystem of Mega East, is that we actually see, like, in order to have people truly not only have their asset parking on-chain, but also even for retailers, say if I only have $2,000 equivalent of asset on-chain, I still want to do portfolio management. I see a better future, for example, given the price performance year to date for ETH, but at the same time, I also want another 50% of this $2,000 equivalent asset I have to put parking as a stable coin or some T-bill return. Today, no one can offer it on-chain, reason being every logic in order to make this liquidity management back off in terms of withdraw and deposit on the back end being too expensive. The friction for you to make multiple logic and rebalancing happening every day for each of your clients is unbelievable high. That is, in our opinion, that stop the very minimum MVP of banking solution capable to happen on crypto. Because the traditional banking, like, one thing we need to highlight that we don't want crypto to solve something that's not being a pain point in the real world. That's what we so-called the real innovation. It is not about getting people FOMO in 6 months. It is about people capable to build on top of some pinpoint that's capable to be solved on crypto. What we need to solve at the moment for the existing banking system is that you need to trust the bank. You need to introduce as Basel 1, Basel 2, now Basel 3, to ensure the bank has enough reserve for what you're putting your money, like, you know, to comfort you to put your saving money into the bank. In the circumstance that you got a crypto clear vault, provide you all the logic, even though you don't own the money, anymore, technically speaking, on chain. The vault own the money. But with all the logic capable to provide full availability to every single customer about what is the liquidity mechanism. You got 5% capable to pull out of this vault immediately, another 20% for the next 24 hours. And in the circumstance, there is a clap of a token that happens to be in the reserve pool. What particular, what will be the logic trigger immediately within the liquidity management mechanism of this so-called bank thing? We don't need to introduce something very difficult to implement, but just a simple idea, which is exactly how we already see things having success in the past 6 years with this AMM idea by Uniswap. I think that is the things we're missing and which is crucial for us to ultimately see, hopefully in 5 years, banking could truly happen on crypto.
Right, agree, yeah. Well, the last question, Pasin, you are the Thai builder. And as we are in Bangkok right now, so I think each market has its own, characteristics. So what do you think are the factors that shaping DeFi, crypto space in Thailand?
Okay, I'll keep it short because I think we run out of time. So I think Thai people, they know a lot of cryptocurrency, they know Bitcoin, they know ETH, even my mom friends, they actually buy something. but also, there's a lot of community really super active or Web3 space. And I think that's a good thing. However, I think a lot of people who they only buy to speculate the price to see go up and down and then they sell it. I think it's quite a shame if we can use, what we do, right, for the contribution DAO or even the company in Thailand, for example, the FWX or even BitCup, we try to push people to know more about the utility that they can use the project, not just buying and to hopefully the prices go up, right? So yeah, that is the narrative.
Yeah, there's speculation. Well, we need that. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you all the panelists for sharing their insights. And let's build and make DeFi great again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, the panelists. Please stay with us and take a group photo. I hope that you've been able to convince the audience that DeFi Renaissance is not too far away. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you to the panel, for sharing with us the insights on DeFi. And we've been able to talk about rollups, DeFi, different scalability solutions. And now we're going to be talking about another same but different kind of topic. So we would have the next speaker, Chicho, founder of ETH Storage and Offchain, to share with us about building the supercomputer. As a OG builder in the space, and obviously with the recent rebranding of Offchain as one of the prominent L2, hopefully you will be able to shed some light on what is the ambitious project about supercomputers about. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Do the clicker? So yes, really glad to share our thoughts on what's the future of Web3, especially with the Ethereum scalability roadmap. So my name is Chijo. I'm the founder of Eth Storage and Offchain. I have been working in this space since 2018, and then my primary focus on Ethereum infrastructure and also layer 2s and data availability technologies. So today I'm going to talk about our work, especially have been recent 3 years on working on what's the superworld computer. Okay, so this is the So as we all know, like Ethereum is moving towards its scalability roadmap using co-rollup approach. The basic idea is to off-chain computation and on-chain verification. So with introduction of data availability technologies, the cost of publishing layer 2 data is significantly reduced. And so right now, the transaction cost of layer 2 is about sub-cents, 0.1 cents. So question is like whether those roadmap is sufficient for the future Web3 applications, especially we would like to serve billions of users that exist in the current Web2 world. Unfortunately, we also found a couple of issues or missing pieces on Web2, even with the Ethereum current rollout approach. The first is that the onboarding costs of the existing Web2 users is still pretty high. Especially, they still need to create a wallet and also acquire corresponding gas token to initiate their first layer 2 transactions. Second is that the performance limit of Ethereum is pretty limited because of the sequential execution model, which is only about to execute about thousands of transactions, where on a centralized system, we can easily achieve tens or even millions of transactions per second. And also, regarding the storage space, suppose we would like to be able to run a fully decentralized tweets, it's still impossible. Tweets is able to create about 12 terabytes of data per day, but right now, because of the storage model of the layer 2 nodes, we are only able to serve like terabytes of data. That is pretty limited. And also, the fourth is that we still rely on a lot of centralized components in our Web3 world. For example, we still need to use a centralized server to run our front end, and which can be easily attacked. And lastly, the current validation cost on layer 1 is still pretty high. So let me go through the details. So for the high onboarding costs, there are main two barriers for Web2 users. First, we need to create wallets, and to memorize those private keys for the users will be extremely difficult. And second, even the users is able to create wallets safely, and it still need to acquire the gas token in order to issue the first transaction. One common idea to address this problem is airdrop, which we have seen a lot of airdrops this year. However, they still fail to onboard these users, mainly because they face the incentive misalignment problem. The project side, they would like to retain the users in the ecosystem, while the users, especially those airdrop users, they would like to maximize their rewards. And once the reward has been received, then they just move to next ecosystem. So the DAUs of these projects just reduced from millions to a couple of thousands after airdrop. And regarding the storage side, we know that all the Ethereum nodes, actually Web3 nodes, is using fully replicated model, which means that in order to be able to achieve kind of like decentralization level, we would like everybody is able to run a layer 2 nodes. And this means that this layer 2 nodes is only able to store a couple of terabytes of data. However, this is almost negligible compared to centralized systems like tweets, which generates about 12 terabytes of data per day. In terms of the performance, right now the Ethereum EVM is using its sequential execution model. So on the right-hand side, this is the console that's printed by the Go Ethereum, which it will tell how long it takes to process the transaction, and what is the number of the gas it can process per second, which is about 100 million gas per second, which is about 4,000 ETH transfers or 1,000 Uniswap V2 swap per second, which compared to centralized system is still far from their performance, which can easily support tens of thousands or even millions of transactions per second. And regarding the centralized front end, most applications, even Ethereum site itself, is still using centralized DNS and the server, which can easily be attacked by for example, censorship, and also DNS, and also IP hijacking. So here I just name a few of the attacks that we can find every year, and this happens again and again. And so we need new comprehensive solutions to address all this. And one solution is IPFS, which addresses the verification issue thanks to content hash. For example, Vitaly right now published his blog about IPFS and completely give up its Web2 domain, vitaly.ca. And unfortunately, IPFS cannot offer the same availability as layer 1 and layer 2. In a lot of cases, a lot of data that is stored in IPFS just disappear automatically after a couple of years. For example, the early images of the NFT projects. And lastly, the validation cost of layer 1 in order to prove the off-chain execution is still pretty expensive. So for the validated proof, the prover is super expensive. It in general require dedicated machines, for example, with a large number of GPU arrays. And one way to optimize the prover is to using the ZK EVM approach with customized servers. Unfortunately, ZK EVM is this called ZK EVM scary. The reason is that the Ethereum upgrades on layer 1, we call EIP improvement proposals. Actually, I have a couple of them. Causes is unfriendly to the ZK EVM approach, which means the layer 2s has to re-implement new circuits, audit the code, and test it. And so another approach is for fraud proof, which right now is popularized by OPStack and also Appchains. However, it requires a very long withdrawal window, mainly because they require, right now, for example, 73 defend and challenge transactions that is on OP Ethereum mainnet. So in order to address this problem, after observing a couple of these issues, we introduced our Superworld Computer project. It aims to solve all these problems built on top of a highly customized layer 2 on OPStack, with the goal to serve billions of Web3 users. So here's an overview of our solutions. For the onboarding courses, we will adopt EIP 7702 and so gas token. And for performance limit, we are using the parallel execution and IOs. And for the storage space, we are working with Ether storage, where Ether storage as layer 3, so that we are able to achieve 1000x storage improvement. And then for the centralized front end, we have authored the EIP 4804, which is already finalized in Ethereum repo. It creates a new Web3 standard so that we are able to access the Web3 content and to avoid all those censorship attacks. And lastly, we propose the advanced fraud proof so that we are able to solve this high L1 validation problem and with almost instant settlement. So first of all, EIP 7702 is a very hot topic these days. And if you have, for example, come from DevCon, there are a couple of talks. So the basic idea is able to support account abstraction and is going to be able to support it in the upcoming Plectra upgrades. So we are one of the team that contribute this idea early. So for example, one idea is to be able to sponsor a transaction using the ERC20 token like USDT. So that now we can easily send a transaction even without gas fee. And also, there's also a couple of features, for example, supporting passkey to create your account easily. And another idea that we are created by us is called Soul Gas Token. It was inspired by Vitalik's non-transferable Soul token. It is an ERC token that backed by the native gas token. However, the token is not able to transfer any value is. The feature is only be able to pay the gas for the users. It's just like in a Web2 system, it's just like credits points that we can use to pay our services without, for example, without actual the money. And with this Soul Gas token, we are able to enable super large scale airdrops without selling pressure because nobody can sell it, transfer it. For example, StockNet right now has about 1.3 million air jobs in order to encourage ecosystem. However, after the air job is done, then very few users stay. Using our SoGas token, we can easily support hundreds of millions of users or even billions of users, so that we are able to almost enable all the Web3 users to easily onboard and be able to send their first layer 2 transaction. For execution side, we are working on parallel execution and IOs. The main reason for this is that we observe the significant cost of the EVM execution because of loading the data from storage, which takes about 70%. However, the common commodity piece SSD can easily support tens or even 30 parallel IOs, so that we can easily achieve even 10 times performance improvement, which means that we can easily support 10,000 transactions per second with per IO optimization. We have proposed a standard EIP 7650 to enable this feature. And then we are also introducing new OP code so that we can support really large amount of data in random positions in a parallel way. For storage side, we are working on Ether storage, which is a modular Ethereum blob storage layer. It's able to, the idea is very similar to layer 2 with off-chain storage and on-chain storage verification. Also thanks to the support from ESB grant, we are able to offer about 1,000 times improvement, that is about petabytes of capacity using this storage approach. You can imagine this is kind of BitTorrent by using Ethereum, also gas token, as a recurrent payment for the node that is able to run and prove its local data. And with all this data and also large amount of transaction that is enabled on the layer superworld computer layer 2, another problem we want to solve is how we are able to access those rich data without worrying about centralized attacks. And that's why we are proposing this Web3 access protocol. It basically turns EVM into an unstoppable HTTP server. It can support HTTP header, request header response, so that it's more like HTTP server, by just using Web3 as the scheme prefix. And it's defined in ERC 4804, it's finalized, and there's an improvement proposal that is 6860. And we also published the Vitalik blog on top of the Web3 access protocol, and also invite Vitalik as our early users. And lastly, we are proposing an advanced fraud-proof algorithm by using the EIP 4844 blog that was introduced in March. And the basic idea is to publish multiple intermediate execution result on chain so that you can speed up corresponding challenges. Like, for example, I can use ZK fraud proof to prove any small session rather than whole state transition. So with this, we are able to improve the ZK fraud proof to 4,000x bandwidth, or using, for example, like a fraud proof, then we are able to reduce the cost to 10% with about less than 10 on-chain in the transactions, so that we can achieve almost instant finality time. And this work is also supported by 2 OP grants. So here is the outline, and then what is the current progress? Now we have a DAppNet that is ready. It's built on top of OP Stack. We are here, I list a couple of the contributions. A lot of them have already been merged to the OP Stack upstream. And so we plan to launch a testnet, just finish the DevCon, and once everything is ready, we are able to launch the mainnet in the next quarter. And we also have launched Ether Storage Sepolia testnet. So right now it has very efficient verification cost with about 500,000 gas costs, and finished the first audit. And we are arranging the next audit in shortly. And with all this, we are able to build a lot of new applications. One popular topic is the AI, fully on-chain AI on top of the Web3. So we upload the full Llama model on top of the testnet and be able to interference the corresponding model and be able to fully check the corresponding inputs, promotes, matches corresponding outputs. And there's a couple of interesting applications, for example, fully on-chain WordPress and fully on-chain Git. So that now, in the future, we are able to develop a Git develop Ethereum on top of Ethereum. Unlike external cache, it is censored by US so that nobody is able to develop on top of that. It's archived by GitHub. And there's also a couple of other fully on-chain applications, social networks or like gaming. Anything is possible. So this is pretty much all I have today. If you have any question or interest in our project, feel free to reach out to me to my tweets. Also, I'm happy to answer any questions after stage. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Chi, for sharing with us about the supercomputer model. So I believe that everyone. So we are coming very close to the end of Eth Bangkok, and all of the discussions for today are finally coming together when we have the last panel about the future infrastructure of Web3. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our panelists. So we would have different players and also as well as builders in different space. So please join me in welcoming Rongsin Chang, Head of Developer Ecosystem from Kobo Wallet. We also have Brandon Kumar, from the co-founder of Layer 3. I hope that somebody has seen him somewhere in the room. We also have Jason Dominic, CEO, co-founder of On-Chain Labs. We have Stan Manilov, Technical Product Lead, BlockSense. And then we also have the moderator, Yu Yang Guo, staff engineer at Coinbase. So hopefully we will be able to discuss what are some of the key takeaways from today and what is the infrastructure for the future of Web3. So please come in. We might be taking it a bit slowly while waiting for Brandon, but please feel free to take it away, Yu Yang. So please, guys.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Please take a seat, everyone. Okay. But yeah, again, many of us have no doubt that Web3 still has a vast unfilled potential to drastically change our financial infrastructure and much beyond that. So here, as the grand finale of today's event, we want to all step back and think as a visionary and think about what the future of Web3 infrastructure really look like. So maybe let's just start with a quick round of intro, everyone, your role, and what do you focus on currently on the Web3 infrastructure? Maybe starting with Rongsin.
Yeah, hi, hello. Thank you, Yang. My name is Rongsin, and I lead developer ecosystems for Kobo. And my focus right now is just, and Kobo is a institutional wallet service. So you can think of it as one of the biggest competitors to Fireblocks. What I do every day is focusing on developer experience. So how do I make it easier for a developer to integrate with our service?
Thank you, Rongsin. And Jason?
Testing. All right. So I'm Jason. As the intro said, I'm founder and CEO of On-Chain Labs. We focus primarily on building on-chain payment infrastructure. So we can build really exciting use cases on those. One of them is the on-chain ramp, which effectively lets you buy directly on-chain rather than having to on-ramp first, and then use that gas to go on a DEX and then swap for what you want. Now you'll be able to fulfill your end intent in one transaction. So that's what we do.
Very cool. And over to you, Stan.
Hey everybody, I'm Stan. I'm from BlockSense Network. I'm a tech head. That's how I call myself these days. And what we do is we build Oracle infrastructure so that you can be the Oracle provider. So we have permissionless Oracle creation SDK, and then we use ZK to make things cheaper and scale better. And then we hope to create a new wave of innovation, basically, by allowing any type of data to be pushed to any chain, because we're chain agnostic. So that's a quick intro. And it's great to be in the company of you folks.
Test. Yeah, as you can all see, we have a very diverse panel with lots of different opinions and different perspectives, so hopefully everyone is in for a fun ride. But I know it's the last session of the day, might be a little sleepy now, so you guys are not prepared for this, but we have a rapid fire question for everyone. So Stan, let's start with you. 3 questions, no hesitation.
Excellent, let's go.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Thai food or Italian food?
Thai.
Too much hesitation.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. BTC or Ethereum?
Ethereum.
Okay, great. You passed. Okay. Yeah, over to you, Jason. Bunnies or bears?
Oh, bears.
Okay. Pad Thai or Khao Pa? I can't pronounce this right.
I guess, is there a third option? I don't know either or.
Okay. Sorry, my bad. I cannot pronounce Thai. Proof of stake or proof of work?
Proof of stake.
Okay, nice. Thank you. But too much hesitation still. Yeah. Okay, Rongxing, over to you.
Not fast enough.
Frogs or turtles?
Turtles.
Okay. Coke or Sprite?
Coke.
Hot wallets or cold wallets?
Cold wallets.
Okay. Yeah. So, well done, everyone. Okay, hopefully everyone's awake now. Now let's get to a little bit more serious question. So for everyone, in a short few sentences, how do you personally define Web3 infrastructure? Because everyone has a different definition here. Right? And after that, what's one thing that you feel we're actually doing right, doing well in this space? Anyone, feel free to start.
Well, I mean, there's, Web3 infrastructure, there's different angles to it. For me, obviously, it's everything that's on-chain. And the part that we're doing right, I think right now, there is a huge focus on going on-chain first. I think this matters a lot. Centralized and custodian type of experiences have gotten us this far. We couldn't have gotten here without them. But I think now the space is getting more comfortable in going on-chain first. There's a lot of providers that enable this. Obviously, Coinbase is working hard on that. Yeah, I think that's what we're doing right now for infrastructure.
Going on-chain first. Thank you. What about you, Stan?
I like to think of a Web3 infra mostly as a network of networks. I'm a simple man, simplify things in my head. And the one thing we do right is I like to, again, see it from the social perspective. I think what's great about it is that everybody's so open and talks to everybody, and there's a lot of cooperation and very little isolation, silos. I think that's a great thing.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, you see all of the leaders of different L2s, like even different L1s, talking to each other, collaborating. Yeah, it's really impressive. How about you, Rongxing?
Yeah, and I think of Web3 infrastructure as tools, services that keep Web3 permissionless and free to use. And I think anything that protects certain values, infrastructures that protect those values, are, in my mind, infrastructure for Web3.
And what we're doing well?
Oh, what works well? I don't know what works well, actually.
Wow, so much confidence.
We got a long way to go still, It's not all working well.
What Rongxing is trying to say is we are still early, and there's a lot of work for us to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think what works well, honestly, is is the fact that it's still up and running, that after 15 years or how many years it hasn't totally collapsed, and even though user growth is not as fast as we want, people are still coming in and they're still alive.
It's resilient, right?
Yes, I think that's amazing. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. And I can already see like everyone has already different definitions of Web3 infrastructure already. So here comes, I guess, another generic question before we dive into very specific ones. Forward-looking, if you had a magic wand, what's one thing you'd want to improve or change in the Web3 infrastructure space right now?
Well, I mean, for us, one of the key components that we'd love to participate and solve is interoperability. I think we're in a moment where there's not going to be less assets, there's not going to be less chains. So in a future where certainty is going into more of everything, ultimately interoperability would be key. So if I had a magic wand, which I don't, so I'm working hard on it, I would sway that wand and make it happen overnight.
Yeah. The magic wand is all of us working hard together towards interoperability.
Yeah.
Connected network of ecosystem instead of islands. Yeah, I gotta go back and message my team to work hard on it. How about you, Rongxing or Stan? Who wants to go?
I come from a particular background that is focusing on performance. So I have a PhD in compilers and worked with Google for infrastructure and Web2. So that's just, I guess, I'm traumatized that way. So I just see always benefit from more performance. So if I had a magic wand, I make it faster, bigger, more data, more transactions, bigger scale. But to be honest, I think Jason's answer is probably a better one. If things work better together, maybe that's the first thing we'd love to have, and then make it faster.
I do agree with the scalability part, though. Like, look at the TPS we have right now compared to Web2 infrastructure. We still have a long way to go.
It's good for now.
It's good for now. Like we need to bring in more traffic. Yeah. Okay. How about you, Rongxing?
Yeah. And I think that developer experience is one of the most lacking things. And I know we talk about it at every DevCon, at every conference, but at the end, everybody forgets about it. But I think it's the ability for a beginner and intermediate developer to come in and easily get started within one line of code. Right? Like somebody that doesn't have much context, run one line of code, get your entire infrastructure up and running, be able to integrate with your contracts, have a simple front end up and running. And I think that is simply not there right now. Even if we look at like test nets, if you want to integrate with like Uniswap's like testnet contracts, like I don't even know where it is. You have to go 5 layers down in their docs to find this. And then when you actually try to integrate with it, you realize there's a bunch of configs missing, pools don't work, and you don't even have a token to integrate with. So nothing really works. And I think that's something I really want to solve. Yeah.
I'm really happy you're saying this because at BlockSense we're actually trying to solve exactly that. we're trying to connect every network, have a very easy SDK to access things. So it almost feels like we were like talk to each other before this. I say this. Thanks.
It's a shared problem. Being builders on chain and interacting with DEX. It's different versions and all of those things. They don't operate the same. It's all different. So yeah.
Yeah. Do I also get a magic wand?
Of course.
Okay. All right. I think my magic wand would be user experience. I think right now our user experience far from like getting mass adoption to all of the users out there. Like I think of the real world analogy of like when people land on a website, we send them first to the bank, and then ask them to go to the post office, ask them to go to this office, the other office, and finally they finish their work. But we're really supposed to be a one-stop shop. You one click, you accomplish your mission.
And if I may, I think we would be there if people don't know they're using Web3, when they use Web3 without knowing it. So it's actually transparent, but that's great UX.
Yeah, if it would be a success if all of the Web3, if no one's talking about Web3 infrastructure anymore, right? So that's the future we're working towards, like get ourselves out of jobs. I'm just kidding there. Okay. So maybe a bit more like sort of more deep dive question. So I think when we talk about the future, right, we're really imagining like, every single person in the world benefiting from Web3. And why are we not reaching the mass adoption yet? What are we missing? What can we be doing?
Well, I mean, this segues into your magic one, and I think it's a UX problem, that's for sure. And when you look at the last decade plus, Web 2 has solved it. Experience is seamless. It's obviously mostly centralized and everything, but the bottom line is that it's created expectations. And the consumer and the people interacting, they've become quite lazy. And anything that has a simple or a little friction, they quit really easily. We're no longer, the masses, they will not go through what we've gone through, this steep learning curve. It's just too big. So I feel based on, the answer I gave earlier as well, I think we are very near being able to offer Web 2 level of user experience and abstraction of all those complexities. And, what you said with regards to going to the bank and post office and all of those things, that's essentially what we're doing in creating kind of this one seamless product where you can go from discovery and effectively holding an on-chain token within a few minutes in the same dedicated kind of pre-built hosted gateway where effectively the person did not know they were using Web3 infrastructure. And I think once we solve that, we can truly start hoping or being confident that the people are going to come. But until we get there, until we still have to handheld every single person and send them how-to guides, and it's just never going to get there. Unfortunately, I personally am not confident that the masses will come until they just don't know.
Yeah, totally, and really glad Offchain Labs is working on a lot of these experiences and solutions. Anything else to add about mass adoption?
I had a quick idea, which was I completely agree with what you're saying, Jason. One thing that I was thinking about, though, is also education is important. So it's great if things are easy to use, but sometimes people need a little bit of hand-holding,
But to be fair, I think, beyond the fact of knowing kind of what you're getting into in the sense of, like if it's a specific asset or if there's like risk involved or beyond that, it's been decades since we no longer read booklets on, how to assemble something. There's no guides on anything anymore. And I think, Apple was really good at you get this really, really complicated thing, but when was the last time you looked at one of those booklets on how it works? You don't. And that's essentially going back to what I just said, is people's expectation is you don't need to learn anything to adopt something. And if there is some form of condition around learning first, then you have friction as well.
Well, you have something else? No? Okay. Well, I actually think that I totally agree, but I also think there's a counter argument to that, which is if you want things to be somewhat decentralized, like you want every user to be able to integrate some cryptographic library into their phone or into their service or to build on top of this, then there is some minimal amount of understanding that they need to have in order to integrate with something. And I think that we should make these things as easy as possible to abstract away as much as possible. But at the same time, I think it's important for people to one day understand how, for instance, cryptography works, like how ZK works. I think that is just like a beautiful, like magical thing that everybody should try and understand at some point in their life. And I think it's just beneficial to them. And I think that maybe the last thing I would say to mass adoption is actually around tokens. So I think that in Web3, it's essentially a company being able to go public before they have found product market fit. Right? You can launch a token within a year. You can launch it within 2 years. And there's like float. So I think companies don't go through as much of the fire as they had, let's say in Web 2, where they're forced to go and like sell to one person, another person, a third person. And I think that's something that holds us back a little bit.
In a sense, we need to increase accountability for ourselves to build, find product market fit before trying to get money out of this, right? Yeah.
Uniswap didn't launch a token until like much later on in their life cycle. And I think it'll be good to go back to some of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then switching gears a little bit, we know we talk about real world assets a lot. And a lot of the really cool use cases of Web3, like how we imagine, Web3 to change our future, infrastructure, is around like how we can easily interact with real world assets. I know you guys are building like oracles or making frameworks to build oracles. Any insights you can offer from that?
I'll try to be quick because I see we're running out of time. So I'm just going to say that we treat all data equally, so to speak. Our initial offering is a chain link drop-in replacement, so that's data feeds for prices. But we want to make it possible so anybody can bring any data they can think of onto the blockchain. So it could be weather data, it could be sports events, and it could be real-world assets. So we think of that as any other data, so it fits in our model. And then it's very important segment because that's where a lot of the revenue is, a lot of the value is. So we believe because today DeFi is very big, so we see this as like another huge opportunity. So yeah, we really care about enabling this.
What's one of the biggest challenges right now with oracles?
With oracles specifically, I'll have to think quite a bit about this. So I'll pass.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So I guess one last question actually targeted for Rongxin is, you work with wallets a lot. And how do you feel like our wallet space is evolving, especially around the advancements of account abstraction, smart wallet? Do you think we're heading towards the right direction? What good things will it bring for us?
So Bobo focuses much more on the institution side. And I think now we will see two worlds splitting. There's the institutional world and there's the DeFi world. But I also see us one day coming back together where the institutions, they ultimately want access to things on chain because if you were able to make so much money outside, you wouldn't want to come in here. So I think there needs to be ways for them to have, for instance, access control, things that they are used to manage their money, but at the same time, not sacrifice too much of the decentralization and the values that I think make Web3 very, very important. So I think it's really this like bridging these two worlds. And I think there are companies doing it. I mean, you are doing it in some ways. And I believe there should be more. But we ultimately want to convert these people into Web3 people. Like, we want them to value all of this stuff that we value, but it takes time, you have to convince them slowly.
All right, that's the great energy we needed to try to conclude this session. We'd love the panel to give everyone one thing to remember or take away from what the future of Web3 infra look like. So the requirement is very strict. Okay, so first use one sentence. What is the future of Web3 infra? And then one word. All right, who wants to start?
Jason is great at starting.
So a sentence. I mean, I only have one thing in mind, which is, Web3 gives the opportunity for true ownership. And the one word is empowerment.
Very cool, very cool.
I was going to initially repeat my previous thing about, faster, bigger, more data and so on, but I like the ownership thing.
Yeah.
So just my one word would be exciting. That's what it is. It's exciting.
Nice, nice. Rong-Xin, you?
They said all the good things, so
You wanted me to start.
Yeah. No. They said all the beautiful stuff, and I will maybe take slightly the other side, which I think, like relationships, I think it can be a little bit complicated sometimes, and that's my one word.
Do we have time for that?
Wait, what's the one word? I heard like 5.
Complicated.
Complicated. All right. And then I guess since unfortunately Brendan is not here, I'm gonna go with mine as well. My one sentence is, which I copied from Jesse, the base creator, is on-chain is the new online. Because we call it Web 3, Web 2, right? And my one word is, oh gosh, I didn't think about this.
Now you're on the spot.
All right, okay. The future is bright. Okay, maybe I can change that. World changing, revolutionary. Okay, something revolutionary.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
That was 8 words, I think.
Okay, but yeah, unfortunately, one of our panelists couldn't make it today, but thank you so much, Rong-Xin, Stan, and Jason for this amazing conversation.
Pleasure.
And thank you all today for coming. I really appreciate that. And back to
Thank you, guys. Maybe the panelists, could you
Thank you.
stay at the stage for a group photo? So we would have the group photo right now. Very thankful for the energy and positive note on how the Web3 infrastructure looks like. And I hope that these guys will be instrumental in making that happen, because you guys have been recorded saying all of these things, so please walk your talk. We're going to be recording this and put it on chain. All right. Thank you all for coming once again and sharing your insights. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rong-Xin. All right. So guys, we are coming to the end of Eth Bangkok and Rollup Day. Thank you so much for coming. Special thanks to Zeeve and APAC DAO for co-hosting this. And especially thank you to all of the sponsors and the partners for making this happen. We've been working relentlessly for the past 2 months, through different time zones, different countries, different ecosystems, different projects. And obviously, this is just like the start of a more positive note on how the Web3 infrastructure or the adoption would look like. And we look forward to seeing you soon, maybe next year, and for more roll-up days in other countries and Eth Bangkok as well in Thailand. So again, thank you all, and please enjoy your stay in Thailand. And again, thank you so much for coming. Have a great day, everyone.